I started my career as a scuba diving instructor, and I was lucky enough to travel all around the world diving in the most spectacular locations. And now we're going back to my roots. Our new mission is to take you live underwater scuba diving. What we're going to do is we're going to have a marine biologist underwater with a full face mask so that they can answer your questions and talk to you in real time.
Lynn on Twitter, it's awesome to have you with us. It is incredible for me as well.
You'll be able to sit in your living room at home and ask a question about the underwater world to somebody who's under the ocean on the other side of the planet.
To be able to be live from underwater is magical. On the one Moorish island, you'll see a small cleaner rat that is actually cleaning little parasites off of that Moorish island.
We are developing a system that will allow us to talk underwater, for you to be able to hear us clearly. It's a real challenge. It's never been done before properly. We're coming along really well.
Leopard moray eel, look at that.
The next thing to do is to get a team out, to get a boat, to set up camp, and to start getting it all up and running. The incredible diversity of fish and coral will blow your mind. Dive Live is the way we're going to get everybody in the world the opportunity to connect with nature. This is our mission.
There's a quote from Jane Goodall, and that is, "Only if we understand will we care. Only if we care will we help. And only if we help will all be saved."
We are a community from all over the world that get together a couple of times a day to share our passion and love of nature.
Can you believe it?
We broadcast Safari Live into schools around the world, which enables the future custodians of our planet, the students, to fall in love with nature.
That whole Safari Live video just inspired me to fulfill my dream of becoming a safari guide as well.
If you pledge to this Dive Live project and come on this mission with us, you'll be able to be there for the first month, which will be a private access experience where you can help us develop Dive Live into being what we believe it can be. But then also, you'll be able to join us virtually on our premiere party after our first public broadcast.
So join us in testing the technology, finding the experts, and setting up camp.
This is such a great opportunity for us to make a difference. We can get people all around the world to fall in love with our oceans. And that's such an important thing to do. Come along with us. It's our mission, make it yours. Or we can make a real difference.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to another grey, cool, cloudy day with, well, one of our not so good looking birds that we get out of here. As you can see, there's this big Marabou Stork that is just slowly meandering through the grass, and like I say, they really aren't the prettiest of birds that we get out of here. They are birds that have this kind of featherless head and this big beak and really don't inspire a lot of kind of pretty thoughts. But they are effective and a welcome sight because they're not a bird that we see very often. So always nice to see them. And I'm pretty sure this bird is here because of the fact that there is a carcass very, very close by. Now, my name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Viam, and it is a very warm welcome to the schools that are joining us this afternoon. So to Great Neck, welcome to the show, and hopefully you guys will be asking lots and lots and lots of questions as we go through the rest of the afternoon. Remember, just give them to your teacher, and your teacher will send them through to us. As for everybody else that is watching, remember that we will get your questions a little bit later, and you can do hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or YouTube chat a little bit later. Now, Zane, what type of animals we're going to see? Well, that's the best thing about safari, is that you never know what type of animals you're going to see. We have a situation where around any single corner there could be anything. But my plan for this afternoon is to try and find you a leopard. So I'm going to try and find you a spotted cat. I think Steve, who's also out on a vehicle, he's heading to the west, and maybe he'll find something like elephants. And Taylor is going to be on a bushwalk, so she's going to be looking for all of the little things. So hopefully we'll find lots and lots of different things for you to see. And talking about Steve, well, he's out and about and wants to say hello, so let's send you across to him.
Good afternoon, boys and girls. Welcome to Safari Live. My name is Steve Falconbridge, and I'm joined on camera there by Fergus. We are out in the African wilderness in the Savanna Biome. And for those of you who don't quite understand what the Savanna Biome might mean, it is basically an area comprised of grass and trees. And it is dictated in South Africa by quite a low rainfall, about 200 millimeters to about 800 millimeters of rainfall, in that range. We don't get any frost, and essentially that is what is determined why the savanna is here. If it got frost, it would become grassland. If it got higher rainfall, it would become forest. And so we've got this very nice open tree system with trees and grasses and a multitude of mammal species. The savanna biome has got more species in it than the forest because of the grazing potential, grass being the most important plant on the planet. Very interesting, don't you think? Please send through your questions with your teacher. Let us know how you're doing and what you'd like to see. We might focus a little bit on the savanna this afternoon. It is 22 degrees Celsius, 71 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see I'm wearing a jacket. We are coming into our autumn, or into our winter, and we're experiencing lots of rain. So it's going to be very difficult to find any animals, but we will do our best. And on that note, we're going to go over to my friend Taylor McCurdy, who is on foot.
Hello everybody, and of course welcome to everybody that has joined us from school. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Craig, but you can call him Batman. Now, like Steve has just said, it's a little bit miserable out here. Look at those big dark clouds in the distance, but I think we have the wind on our side and they're blowing them in the westerly direction, so away from where we're going to be going. We're going to be going east today, and the reason why we're going to be going east is we're trying to find a leopard on foot. Can you believe it? Walking around here looking for those big animals. So hopefully we'll be able to walk in some areas where the vehicles can't go and find the leopard. Goodness, Olivia, Shoo, that's a difficult question to try and answer. Now, you've asked, what is the estimated population of the animals out in this area? Well, there are so many different types of mammal species out here. Not just mammals, but birds and reptiles and insects and fish and all sorts of other wonderful things. So for me to give you an exact number, I think would be virtually impossible. But there's lots, plenty lions, lots of leopards, lots of buffalo. I was just telling Herbie, who's down over there. Let me quickly introduce you to Herbie. He's got a rifle, as you can see, so he's helping us with the walk. You have to have someone with a rifle. He's also a trained guide, just like me, on safari. And I'm not concentrating, unfortunately, when I'm walking. I'm always talking to you guys, so he helps with that. And now I've completely forgotten where I was going with my question. So there's lots and lots of animals. And I was just telling Herbie that a big herd of buffalo had actually crossed into the property. There must have been maybe 100 or 200 of them. There were just footprints everywhere. So we don't ever know how many animals are on our property at one single time, because they can move over an area of 8 million acres. That's pretty cool, hey? It's huge. They can go from here all the way to Mozambique if they want to. Right, we're going to keep walking and start looking for Tundi's tracks, which is the leopard we're going to try and find. Tristan, however, has got a crime scene.
I do indeed. So sometimes out here we have mysteries that we're not really sure what happens, and animals that unfortunately pass away and die, and it's part of nature. There's some animals that will get old, some animals get weak, some might get killed by others. And so I was saying earlier that there was that big stork, the Marabou Stork, was here because there was a dead animal, and the dead animal is an impala that is lying down on the ground. So if you're a little bit squeamish and you don't like to see dead things, then probably now's a good time to look away. But basically that impala died early hours of this morning. So when Steve found it this morning, it had just died, and the vultures have come down, as well as the Marabou Stork, and they have eaten all of this carcass. And you can see now it is just the skin and the head that is left. The unfortunate thing is that the vultures don't have very strong beaks to break bone, so what they've done is they've eaten all the meat off those bones, and they've left nothing else there other than the skin and the horns. Now, it is amazing to see that the sort of work that vultures can do. You would think that vultures would take a long time to eat an animal, but this animal has been eaten just in one single day, and that's an animal that weighs close to about 150 pounds. So it's not a small animal, but it just goes to show how good vultures are at cleaning up and making sure that we don't have rotting meat and disease and all of those kind of things. So really efficient in the way that they do things. And like I said, it's sad that the impala died, but it is part of nature, and the vultures also have to eat. They provide a very good function in cleaning things up, and also that carcass rotting there is going to provide nutrients to the ground, which is going to grow better grasses, and then another impala that will come along will be able to eat those grasses and feed off of them. Now, I was talking about Steve, who did find this impala, but he's also found himself some grass that he wants to show you.
And I just jumped off the vehicle really quickly just to grab a couple quick samples of the most important plant in the world. And sorry about the poll. Grasslands are responsible for supporting the greatest abundance of mammal species in the world. So if you want to deal with mammals, you need to understand a little bit about what they eat. And you might look behind me and see all the grass and think, oh my word, how do you tell the difference? Well, this is the time of year to learn grasses and to learn how to identify them. And it's all about the inflorescence. Very easy. This is called cat's tail or bottle brush. This is where the fruiting parts or the seeds of the grass form on the top there. It's all very, very green. So that is a different one. Then we've got a love grass over here, one of the many different types of love grass species. It's quite spread out like that and very different from similar looking ones. You can learn that though. Then we get another one here. You see how messy it is? There we go. If I pluck one of them out there, there is the seed on the tip. And these little awns are designed for helping to distribute it. So quite easy to identify these grasses, and very important to know. I mean, look, I've got 3 more here. Can you see how 4 more? See how different they all are. So when you come out and you want to be a range manager and understand and to learn the land, you can't just learn the animals. You need to learn the vegetation first. And once you've learned the vegetation, it's important to understand the soil. Once you understand all of that, very easy then to then focus on what the animals are eating and how they are surviving out here in the environment. For example, that impala that Tristan's with feeds on not only grasses, but also on the leaves. So you need to understand that from a life sciences point of view if you want to manage animals. Do I have enough grass? Do I have enough trees? But if I show you this one quickly again, these 2 here are very tasty and delicious grasses. Very important for the ecosystem. If you rated them out of 10, these both would be 10 out of 10. Whereas if I showed you these 3 over here, all 3 of these are not very good. Okay, so this one over here is a very important one to understand that the vegetation is actually quite a poor condition. So if you get a lot of this, there's trouble. If you get too much of this, it's okay. It's in a transition stage. And this one, it's also in a little bit of trouble. But those last 2 I showed you, if you get dominance of that, things are looking very, very good. So I hope that explains a little bit more about it. And all of the grasses out here, there's lots of species. There's about 94 different species that we can find here. But if you are a manager of this land, you only really need to learn about 11 or 12 that are important. So I just showed you a quick 4 or 5 there. And it takes time. I must admit, it takes time to learn them all. But they all have a very important role out here when it comes to the land and understanding what condition everything is in. Sorry, Bex, I think my volume was down slightly there. Jocelyn, you'd like to know what are the climate changes? Well, we are going into sort of winter now, so that would probably be you guys in the northern hemisphere going into summer. We're coming out of our autumn or our fall, and generally what we see, it's the opposite from what the northern hemisphere features. We are going into winter when you're going into summer and vice versa, and this is late rain that we're experiencing. You see how very green it is around. Normally we should have our rain from about October till about February, March. April is really starting to push it, and we're getting a lot of our rain in the last few weeks, which is marvelous, but it is a good indication of how climates are changing. And then our winter months are supposed to be very dry. You'll see the grass starts to sort of deteriorate. All those inflorescence or flowers I'll show you are going to disappear soon. So if you like learning about grasses and trees, this is the best time of year to come. Talking about grasses and trees, let's go to Taylor, who's inside a tree.
almost, I wish I was small enough to fit in there, but something that is small enough was termites. And they've created a lot of the damage in this tree. It doesn't look like it's very active anymore. It's quite exposed, unfortunately, as you can see. But do you want to know what's really caused a lot of damage to this tree too? It was the elephants. Now, I'm probably thinking, Taylor, how on earth did the elephants cause any trouble to this tree? But if you look over here, and you see how this was one big wound. Basically, the elephants came through here using their big tusks and scored away at it, cutting big chunks out of it, because the elephants like to eat the bark, the inner layer of the bark, the cambium layer. So that's the layer where the nutrients go from the roots all the way up the trunk of the tree and up to the leaves. Now, this tree was very lucky. They didn't ring bark it. Well, an elephant didn't ring bark it completely, so it was able to survive, and you can see how it's healed. And then, shame this tree just hasn't had any luck, and then the termites got it. Now, I know for all of you that are living in America, you know that termites are a big problem. They're a big problem in Australia. They're actually a massive problem in the world. We're quite lucky in South Africa. Not many of the termite species are actually feeding on wood alone. Lots of them eat grass and other sort of organic matter. And this specific type of termite, though, of course, has eaten most of its way in the tree. So it'll eventually die. It's still got leaves on it, though, which is amazing. It's going to lose those leaves soon as we go into winter. And then something else that is using this tree is the squirrels. And if you look very carefully over here, and you see there's some nuts. You can see they've been stashed away over there. I'll move that back for you. And then, if I take one out, you can see there used to be actual little nuts in there that are very tasty, but the squirrels have already got to it. Can you see the chew marks from its teeth? I've been trying to gnaw it all the way out. So this tree is very important. Lots and lots of different things utilize it. It's actually my favorite fruit in the bush is a marula fruit, but marula fruit season is over. Anyways, it's quite cool. Now, squirrels and lizards and all sorts of things will be living in there too. No, Bex, can I have that again? Sorry. I was telling lots of stories about squirrels. Let's walk to Herbie. He's just sat down up ahead. Now, Skylar, you've asked what are some of the endangered species that we see within the area. Well, there's lots. Black rhinos will be one. White rhinos, which we are very lucky and we do get to see every now and then. Another one would be a pangolin. Now, a pangolin is like an armadillo. Do you all know what an armadillo is? We get very similar things, but we call them pangolin down here. Now, they are the most trafficked mammal in the world. They use their scales for medicinal uses. They use the meat, they eat it, and all sorts of other things will have some sort of traditional medicine. Obviously, a lot of the time, there will be westernized medicine that we can use without having to harm these animals, but it is a big problem. I have never seen a pangolin before. That's how elusive they actually are. So there are quite a few. There's even some birds that are endangered, like southern ground hornbills. They're quite big birds. They sort of stand about that tall, completely black feathers underneath their wings, beautiful white, and then they've got sort of red around their face as well. And it's quite cool. We're lucky we get to actually see the southern ground hornbills regularly. So even though they are endangered, this should be a safe place because we have security teams that drive around 24/7. They walk, they fly in the sky with helicopters and aeroplanes and trying to protect the animals the best that they can from, well, poachers. So not only the rhinos and elephants get poached, but there's lots of other animals that get poached. And it seems as though Steve has got an itch sitting in the car. He's back outside looking at something. I'm not sure what.
Yes, I am. I'm off the vehicle and look at this marvelous sky behind us there. There's potentially still more rain on the way. And as far as you can see, I don't know if you can quite make out the mountains there, but that is what we call the Drakensberg Mountains. And a huge amount of the soil we find in this area actually comes from there when once upon a time this was all undersea, underwater. And everything from that mountain range all the way to the sea behind us there is actually what we call the low veld, very low-lying area. And we stopped in this open area as well because To understand animals as well, you need to understand the habitat that they like to live in. And what we have here is quite a nice open patch just off to the left and around. And this is the kind of areas you'll come looking for animals like zebra and wildebeest. And you need to maintain areas like this if you want to have those animals around. As we go along, we're going to see different habitats, more sort of dense bush. The soils are going to change. There'll be more trees. There'll be less grass. These things are very important to maintain what we call the biodiversity. The objective here is not to have a cattle ranch, to have one species of animals and just a flat grassland. We want to have patches of open and patches of dense, patches of tall, and all the different animals that we can find. And that is what the term biodiversity means. As many species as you can possibly fit into one area. Angelina, the most dangerous animal in South Africa and the rest of the world is the human species. So that is a true story. Humans are the most dangerous animals in the world. And in the Savanna biome, out here, what we would probably say, if we're looking at dangerous animals, you probably talk about an African elephant. They are enormous. They can get up to 13,000 pounds. Then the Cape buffalo, they can get up to about 2,000 pounds. They can have very bad tempers from time to time, but if you respect their distance, they can be okay. But on foot, they can be very, very dangerous animals. But they're not out to eat us. They're not trying to kill us. It's just if you don't respect their space and they feel threatened. As I said before, the Savanna biome is a very important biome. It is the youngest. When I mean biome, I mean a vegetation unit with the same type of vegetation and climate. William, you would like to know what are some important animal adaptations. Well, hopefully we can find you some, but zebras have got stripes, and the stripes are designed for confusion when predators are trying to hunt them. The zebras kind of move around like this, and the patterning gives them a very distorted image, and they're very difficult for the leopards or the lions to catch them. Kudu, a very nice animal, is very camouflaged with stripes. I'm actually in this area hoping to find kudu and zebra for you, because these are two very nice animals, very contrasting in how they've adapted, but very successful in the way that they disappear into the thick vegetation, or in the case of the zebra, on an open plain. They can hide behind each other because the stripes and the patterns make it very difficult for a lion to see an individual zebra. Okay, so one of the most important skills out here for us as humans, Taylor's busy tracking.
I'm so sorry, I'm laughing so hard. It is one of the most important skills. Herbie is in hysterics at the moment. Now, what I want to show you is quite cool. I don't know if you can figure it out just yet. It just looks like random little lines. Yeah, look at this. There's a toe, there's a toe. There's a third toe. Here's a back toe over here. I'm going to put my foot next to it. I wear a size 7 shoe. What's that, like a size 41 or a 42, I think is the US that use it. That is massive. And what I was trying to do is actually trying to get you a photo of this bird. And I have a bird app. Let me quickly find it for you. It's called a Marabou Stork. So all of you know storks, you know the ones that drop the babies off? I'm just joking. We know that that's not true, of course. But it's the ugliest stork you're going to ever see in your entire life, and I wish we had one to show you. Look at this thing. No, that doesn't work. Is there a glare? Do I need to angle it? All right. There we go. Look at that ugly bird. Isn't that terrible? And it likes to eat crickets and all sorts of insects, whatever it can catch. And then, why I think it was here was because you saw with Tristan, all the vultures that were feeding on that impala carcass. I reckon those Marabou storks were also moving around here. I think we saw 2. But that's the first time I've ever seen the footprint of a Marabou stork. I didn't realize how big they were. That's enormous. So cool. Let's carry on. Now, Christina, we have lots and lots of birds in South Africa. We're very lucky with all the diverse biomes that we have here. So there's about 850 odd birds in South Africa. Amazing, right? Pretty incredible. And just alone in this area, there's easy maybe just over 300 or so. See, some of them come and go. They don't always stay here. And we've got a lot of birds that were here but have now left. They're migrants, and they go home for our winter, and they go back to, they just basically chase the sun all the time. So some of the birds will fly over the ocean all the way to Europe, like the European rollers, and then others are intra-African migrants. So they don't leave Africa, they just go further north where, well, the seasons are slightly different. So, for instance, like the Wahlberg's eagles, they'll be on their way home now. So that's quite cool, don't you think? We get to see some birds that live all the way overseas, and they come all the way to sunny South Africa to come and eat all the insects this side. The birds are very clever, and it's why they are so successful, is because when there's no food around, they just flap their wings and they go to another area where there is food. Oh, we can't really do that. We've either got to walk or we've got to drive there. Anyways, speaking of birds, it seems as though Tristan has found a feathered friend.
Indeed we have, Taylor. We have found one of our birds that likes to go for a spot of fishing. And so this is a grey heron. And these guys are very common in this area. You'll find them moving around, and they look for any signs of fish or frogs or anything like that, even freshwater crabs, that they can then get their beaks on. So they move slowly through the water. And you can see how this bird has got its eye just turned slightly, waiting for anything to move. And then it uses that long neck that is curved up in an S shape and is held with muscles to be able to then stab into the water very quickly and grab their prey that they are looking for. So it's a very cool bird to watch. And sometimes if you sit here for long enough, you can actually see them hunting and trying to catch certain things. And so sometimes you've got to be a little patient, and it takes a while. They are very patient hunters. They're not going to just run in and try and grab things. They often are animals that will sit for a long period of time and just wait and make sure that they are very patient in the way that they go about it. So this guy is just sitting very carefully. You can see every now and then he moves his feet a little bit further in and checks around and looks. You see, there we go. Now it's decided, nope, needs to move a bit closer. And they're beautiful big birds. They're much bigger than it looks in that particular situation. They've got long legs, as do most herons, and stands quite tall, but very common to see them here. The grey heron is probably our most seen heron of all of them in this particular part of the world. We see lots of them around here as they go about their business hunting in the water points. And so generally, if you find any big water holes, you'll be able to find these guys fairly close by, wading around trying to find food. But it's amazing how still they keep their head, and the eye is what's just moving around, because they don't want to scare anything. Sometimes you'll find frogs that will be swimming around just below the surface of the water, and if they move too much, then they scare them. Now, while we be patient with our bird and see if it's going to strike out and catch itself a meal, let's send you quickly across to Steve, who's got a hive of activity.
Thank you very much, Tristan. Well, we have stopped in the road to investigate some goings-on of some termites. I believe Taylor was talking to you before about that one termite species that was eating the bark of the tree. Now, this is a different termite altogether. This is known as the harvester termite, and Haley would like to know how many species of termite are there. Well, I can tell you how many types. We get the large fungus growing, the small fungus growing, the harvester, and the wood termite, and the black mound termite. On the top of my hand, I'm thinking of 5 in South Africa. There's possibly more, but these guys are known as the harvester termites, and they're quite easily identified by, if you got this one here, Ferg, by the fact that they're quite dark in color. They've got melanin on their skin, which enables them to be able to move around in the sunlight. Most other termites are not able to be active when the light is shining, and these guys go out of their hole. They accumulate all sorts of organic material like grass and leaves and twigs, all cellulose type of products, and they bring them back to the hole, and then they'll take them down the hole. There's someone in here at the moment busy grabbing these pieces and taking them down, which is absolutely marvelous, because this species of termite has got an enzyme in the stomach that allows them to break down cellulose, which I think is incredible. Jasmine, termite mounds can get to probably about between 12 and 15 feet. In my experience, it's about as high as I've seen them before. So that's pretty tall, and that is for the guys who do not digest the cellulose themselves. Those are the fungus-growing termites, and the reason they build those big mounds is the mound is a big cathedral. It's a big greenhouse that allows oxygen to come in and air movement, and they actually have got a greenhouse where they are able to grow the fungus, and the fungus will break down the cellulose and then give that to the termites themselves, whereas this species have an enzyme called cellulase in their tummy that allows them to break that down on their own, which I think is absolutely incredible. And we're seeing lots of termites out at the moment, lots of birds eating them, and I would eat one if I was hungry, but I don't need to. They taste just like peanut butter. But as we move on, let's go back to Tristan and his very patient bird.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, Steve. I find that the termites maybe have a bit more of a spicy peanut butter taste than just straight peanut butter, maybe like a Thai peanut curry type effect. But they are, it's amazing actually how many things eat them, given their sort of commonness in this area. You would expect a lot of different birds to eat them, but they, like I say, have a little kind of defense in terms of their sort of pincers that they've got, and so you've got to be a little bit careful if you feed off them. Now, Elizabeth, this heron will be eating mostly frogs in a pan like this. There's going to be very few fish in a pan like this. It's very small and is seasonal, which means that basically only when it rains does this pan fill up with water. In the winter months, it's generally dry, and so in here will mostly be frogs, very few fish, and so they're going to be hunting frogs more than anything else, as well as maybe a few crabs. So sometimes you'll find freshwater crabs in these areas, and that's what they'll go after, but mostly will be frogs, and even a small little turtle type animal called a terrapin, and that's what they'll go after, little baby terrapins as well. Lucas, I'm not sure how many heron species there are in the world. There's obviously quite a few different heron species in the world, but here in South Africa and in where we are right now, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm just trying to count them in my head, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think we get 8 different herons here in this particular part of the park, and I think it's something like 13 within southern Africa. I might be wrong, 13 or 14, somewhere like that in southern Africa. But in the world, there's a lot more than that. You've got very different herons to what we have here, and so I don't know how many different herons there are worldwide. But definitely here in this reserve, we see 8 different herons, which is very cool. Now, a lot of those herons, unfortunately, like water that is moving. So they like to hunt fish, big fish, and things that are in rivers. And because we don't have rivers here, we don't see too many of them. But our bird has not had much success at all. Now, Kyle, the largest bird in South Africa, I'm going to show you a picture of the largest bird in South Africa. I'm pretty sure that you'll know what this is when you see it. So let me just try and find it quickly. But it's basically a very large bird that is not able to fly, and there's very few birds in this world that can't fly, so this should be an easy one once you see it. There we go. So that is the largest bird in South Africa. It is called an ostrich, and so an ostrich is a very, very big bird. They are much bigger than you think. They kind of stand taller than I will stand, and they've got big, powerful legs, but they're not able to fly. Because of how big they are, they can't fly, and so they have to kind of run around, and that's why they've got massive legs, is to be able to run and to be able to kind of then defend themselves with those legs rather than actually flying. Now, from one big bird to another one, the Taylor McCurdy, and one that actually flies.
This one does fly, but I'm pretty sure your heron flies too, Tristan. This is the bird that had those massive, massive footprints that we saw earlier. It's the Marabou Stork. Now, it's very far away from us, so it's quite difficult to show you how big it is. I wish it would be cooperative and stand next to me, and then I could show you. Well, it wouldn't almost be as tall as me, but they do stand, let me do the conversion, 1.5 meters. So what's that, about 3.5 feet tall? Somewhere around there. So it would probably be about here. Somewhere about there. That's a tall bird, don't you think? I stand at 172. Maybe it's even a bit bigger than me. A bit bigger, a bit higher than I said. And then it has big wings. Very, very big wings. 2.5 meter long wings. Now, Arturo, you've asked what are the most dangerous birds on the property? Well, to us, the only one that's very dangerous is probably the ostrich. But we're lucky we don't get to see... No, we're not lucky, because I'd like to see lots of ostriches. Listen. And kudu, Herbie. There's some antelope that are alarming. So Herbie's just calling it on the radio, and hopefully Tristan or someone is going to go there to try and figure out who and why those animals are alarming. So you can also hear there's some birds shouting. They're shouting at the moment. They're probably shouting for us, or maybe they've seen a snake. They all speak the same language and they all talk to one another. But let's go across to Steve and see if it's his impala that is making all that noise.
Yes, we have found an animal. I think Tristan showed you a dead one just now. And look at what it's doing. It is thrashing that bush as if it is a punching bag. The male impala are coming to what we call the rutting season now. They're building up their neck muscles. They're getting very, very strong. They're going to be fighting very soon for the right to mate with the females. And at the moment, that small little bush is taking the brunt of its aggression. Isn't that marvelous, though? But, you know, if you're going to go fight somebody, you don't jump in the ring without doing some practicing. You need to at least build up your strength. And it's amazing how much muscle these boys will develop in their neck in the next few weeks, enabling them to compete and to dominate males of similar size and stature. They have been waiting for years for the opportunity. And this male is looking like he's in his prime. And he is ready to go. What they are doing now is they're demarcating small little territories for themselves so they can attract the females. And Elizabeth, you are looking at him. Elizabeth wants to know what is the most hunted prey. Well, in the savannah, impala is probably the most common antelope that you'll find. And so they fall prey to cheetah, wild dog, leopard, lion, martial eagle when they're very young, even small ones to large rock pythons. Even I've seen even baboon taking young impala. There are many, many impala, and the reason for that is because they are very successful. The rut that these guys are going to go through very soon ensures that there will be a whole lot more impala babies by November, and that goes on and on and on every single year. But you can see, talking about hunted, this guy's a little bit skittish because he's on his own. He's thrashing the bushes to get strong, and he's not sure if anything's trying to sneak up on him. No one's going to warn him of an approaching leopard or lion, so he has to feed, he has to build up his strength, he has to build up his neck muscles, and he has to avoid being eaten by a leopard and a lion. So if he does survive, and as Beck says in FC, in Final Control, he's very dedicated. If he does manage to get through, then it's good. His genetics are strong, and they will go forward. But look at that. The poor bush. What did the bush do to you? Eh? He's licking his lips in satisfaction. Absolutely marvelous. So obviously this is the practice bout. In the next couple of weeks we're going to see these impala delivering quite large blows to each other's heads, and we don't know what killed that impala that Tristan is with just moments before. It's possible that it was another male impala, but we didn't actually find any injuries on him that could have been inflicted by another male. But who knows? The mystery of the savannah is always there. Connor, they don't. So you want to know if the animals get scared when they see our truck or our Jeep driving by, and they don't get scared. They've become quite sort of used to the vehicle, but if I drove right up to it, it would move away. They don't get any we call it negative reinforcement. So if something had to happen from this vehicle on a regular basis to affect their behavior, they would learn to move away from the car. But because we don't hunt them, we don't chase them, we don't do anything to affect their behavior, they tend to just get used to us as this smelly green machine that's moving through the wilderness, and they don't seem to give us any heed. But on that note, if I get out of the vehicle and he sees me as the two-legged, upright standing human being that emerged on the savanna landscape many, many years ago with these animals, they would run away because they see us as a predator, and he would run in fear of his life because man is the ultimate predator on the African landscape. We came together in bands of humans, and we were very clever and able to hunt very large animals with all sorts of different techniques over 800,000 years till today. So he's finished his boxing routine. He's now going to look around and see if he can maybe attract some females into his area. So let's keep moving on and see if we can find any of the lovely females that he's looking for. So this area we're driving through is a good area because it's quite open. There's access to some water. So as a male, that would be a good area to try and sort of demarcate as his territory for the breeding season, because the strongest males will get the best places, and the females will come there for the resources. So if he's got the best area, he will get more females, and his genes will go further and further and further. But sometimes these males will try to demarcate these areas a little bit too soon, and by the time the mating happens, he's already been eaten or outcompeted because he's lost condition very quickly. It's very difficult to look around and eat at the same time, and so they lose condition because they're not eating all the time. So it actually benefits them to stay in groups. So doing what he's doing now is a risk to himself, but it's for the benefit of his genes moving forward. Okay, well, while we continue on this road looking for whatever animals we might, Taylor has found a bush and she's picking through it.
Right, I've got some very exciting news for all of you. Remember how the last time you were with us, we said we could hear something alarming, we could hear kudu, we could hear impala, which are antelope. We were right, there's a leopard, it's Tandi. And Tristan has actually found her, but he's down there in the distance, you won't be able to see him. We were on our way, we were marching to that area to see if we can find her. Now we've got some birds that are alarming up this way too. Goodness, there could be anything out here. So hopefully Tristan is going to follow that leopard to an area where the signal's a little bit better, and then you'll be able to see. Now, I'll answer this question first. Now, Emil, the animals out here are very easily able to sort of adapt themselves to any situation, even with the environment that they're living in. So, for instance, leopards can live in any habitat, anything. They can live where they thrive in this area because it's got the Sabi Sand has got the densest population of leopards. We see leopards all the time. It's amazing. And they like it where there's obviously tall grass they can hunt through. In the Maasai Mara in Kenya, the leopards definitely utilize the long grass there. In South Africa, in this area, they're using the trees, they're using the small shrubs. You can see, look how varied the vegetation is here. So we're going down into a riverine thicket. So we're on the edge of a drainage line. So there are lots and lots of trees. But then there are other areas that are a little bit more open than that. And they're able to adapt. Lions as well, they will sort of survive and hunt in any kind of conditions in the deserts. I mean, in the Namib deserts, there are prides of lions. Not very many left, but there definitely are some. There's just a vehicle going to come past us, and I know they're going to try and help Tristan find those leopards, so we'll just move off the road for them. So how cool is that? Cheetah are also able to adapt themselves to any situations, any types of areas. And the only thing with a cheetah, though, is that it has to run fast to take its prey down. So there it needs a little bit more open areas. But leopards and lions, they have a different type of hunting technique. They just need to stalk and keep nice and low. You've seen, hopefully you will see the beautiful rosettes that a leopard has that helps in camouflage. Lions, I'm sure you've all seen pictures of lions. Maybe some of you have been lucky enough to see them in real life. You'll see that tawny color blends in very, very well to sand, and that's why they can sort of live out in the desert with very, very little vegetation. How amazing is that? That these animals, they don't just need one type of vegetation type. They can hunt and survive and thrive in many, many different types of areas. Let's go up this way. We're going to move away from that side now that we know that the leopard has been found. There's no need for us to go and view that leopard on foot now, and which is going to be quite cool. Have a look at this tree very quickly. This tree is called a Tumbuti tree, and we see them a lot around the riverine thickets. Remember, I was just talking about that. A very easy tree to try and identify. And the way I normally do is I look at the bark. Very, very rough. Now, this particular tree has got a toxin to it. It's got a milky latex. Let's see if we can show you. Let me try and get a little bit. You can sort of just start to see some of the milky latex. Now, a lot of the plants that have this white toxic substance to it would mean that it's poisonous. But like everything out there, there's an exception to the rule. So this is a poisonous tree, but there are still some animals that will try and eat it. Can you believe it? So something like a kudu, one of the animals that was doing an alarm call, they'll eat this tree. Inyala, bushbuck, black rhino, and even elephants. And they think that they eat this tree. Maybe they've got something wrong with their stomachs to help them feel a little bit better. Often plants like this will help them in that sense. Now, Blake, you've asked if there are any other animals out here that eat fruits and leaves other than just meat. Yes, most certainly. Most of the bird species will feed on fruits, from the buffalo thorn, from the marula trees. Lots of different animals will eat fruit too, from squirrels, from, my goodness, porcupines eating some fruit. So many different things. Now, we're quite excited because we can hear lots of birds shouting in this direction over here. So what we are going to do is we're going to go investigating. There could be something else. Oh, here's some fruit, Blake. Look at this. Look at this tree over here. This is called a quarry tree, and it's in the Euclea family. You get lots and lots of different types of quarry trees all over the country, and there's some delicious ones. Oh, here we go. Here's a ripe one. The red ones are the ripe ones. The green ones are not ripe just yet. This is a hairy quarry. Let's taste it. Oops. I'm going to get another one. That's a jumping one. Look at this. It's so tasty. It's like a grape crossed with a pomegranate berry. But it's got a very big seed in the middle. Can you see that? So there isn't much fruit on it. But for a bird that'll just go and eat it whole, doesn't really matter. Okay. But monkeys, baboons, and vervet monkeys will come and feed on the fruits of this tree. Craig and I love to eat the berries. And another really cool thing about this tree is, now you can imagine, it's a hot spot. All the different animals that eat fruit are going, yay, lunchtime, breakfast or dinner, whatever it may be, and they all come and eat off the one tree. And some of the animals will even eat the leaves. You can see there were some insects and things feeding on the leaves here too. So it's being attacked. What is this tree going to do to try and defend itself? Well, some of those berries I just ate and the leaves are very, very bitter, but not straight away. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a time. And the more the leaves are pulled, the more fruit that's picked from this tree, the stronger the bitterness is going to get in the leaves. And we call those tannins. So tannins basically are chemical. It's a chemical defense, essentially. But I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Tristan has got a leopard for you.
Well, look, we can see a leopard, which is so exciting. So we're trying to find this female, and luckily Taylor and Herbie heard an alarm call and we came into the area and we managed to find her. So super exciting, and she's moving around through these thickets because she's trying to hunt at the moment. So she's looking for animals that she can try and go after, and so she's looking for things like impalas, which is a medium-sized antelope, and small antelopes that she can then pounce on. She likes to hunt smaller things because she's a female. It's a little bit difficult for her to hunt really large animals. Makes it very tough for her to be able to kind of get them up into a tree and keep them away from things like hyenas. So she's looking for smaller animals. She just walked past a big antelope called a nyala, and now she's trying to find something a little smaller. Now, Connor, they will eat, as I've just said, they will eat basically small to medium-sized antelope, but a leopard has a very varied diet. It'll eat anything from young sort of sort of birds, all the way up to baby elephants, giraffe, those kind of things. So they have a very wide array of food that they like to eat, and they really will eat anything that comes across their path. Now, she's busy, I think, watching something on top there. I think she's watching the impalas. She's looking at her head, how it's moving, and you can see why leopards are so difficult to find. It's thick, it's dense in here. It's really not easy at all to be able to see them. Now, she's going to disappear over the bank, so we're going to try and catch up with her very quickly before she disappears. Now, unfortunately, it's that time where you guys are all going to be leaving us and you're going to be heading off to another class, and so I hope that you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you hopefully on another safari soon. Right, now, what's a way to kind of begin our normal drive? So, really cool that we've managed to finally catch up with Tandi. Hopefully she's going to take us back to the cub today, and we can finally prove for sure that it is the cub that is alive. But I'm 99.9% sure, given that it's her that we found here. This is the same leopard that's been moving around in this area. We had alarm calls this morning, alarm calls last night, and so it must be her. So, and the cub is actually alive, given what was seen on the dam cam. So super exciting. Now remember that you guys can get involved now. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and YouTube chat. Lots of questions, lots of hopefully comments about Tandi and whether or not we're going to find the little one this afternoon. I'm hoping so. Looks like she's in hunt mode though. She doesn't look like she's in kind of a mode where she's just meandering off back towards the cub. She looks like she's trying to actually hunt something and find something. She was unfortunately spotted by some male impalas that are off to my left hand side, so she's not going to be able to hunt them. And so what we're doing is we're trying to just catch up quickly to where we last saw her, because she was kind of moving in this direction. Now it's very thick, very dense, difficult terrain here, and it's going to be tough to find her. Now the guys are just telling me that she's still behind me, so we're going to just take a slightly different route to the route that they're taking in order to try and kind of find her. Now I wonder, so First Lady, you're saying us finding Tandi is making your day? Well, I'm glad to hear that, First Lady. So I think I'm making everybody's day, to be honest. It certainly made my day after a difficult couple days. We knew she was in here this morning. We had those alarm calls. There's been tracks yesterday and today, and so it was just a matter of time until we were able to try and kind of find her and get her again. But there she is. You see, she's following these male impalas. So even though the impalas have kind of are aware something's going on, they haven't seen her yet. And so she's in behind the impalas trying to kind of follow. So there you can see her just in the thicket. And here she comes. She's definitely striding with purpose this afternoon. And it is 100% Tandi. And you can't mistake that little face for anybody else's. And interesting that she's right back in the thick of her territory, right back along the Mulawati drainage. She's been kind of spending more time in this area the last few days, but there she goes. You see how she trots across the more open section in order to try and get closer towards where those impalas are. Well, you got a thorn in your foot, girl. Yes, get rid of that quickly. So she's coming slowly along to our left. Now, I don't want to move too much just yet, given that obviously we have impalas close by. There's also another two vehicles that are with me, and so we don't want to move and disturb her or the impalas too much. We just want to try and give them as much of an advantage as possible. So what I'm doing is I'm just letting her cut around me, and once she's around me and in front, then it becomes much easier for me to be able to follow her rather than to kind of sort of cut her off or anything like that, or get in between her and the impalas. Now it seems as though she's gone quite far around already, so let's try and catch up a little bit with her. The impalas are kind of drifting about, so they run that way, then they're running that way, and it's male impalas that are kind of chasing each other in a bit of a rut, if you want to call it that. They're not really full rutting, but there's a little bit of kind of competing with one another at the moment. So I'm just saying hello to the other guys that are with us. So KL, you're asking why animals such as the leopard eat the skin of their prey. I think that's what I heard. Rebecca, there she is right here. She's just coming out towards where we are. So she's heading towards the road. Now, the reason why they would eat the skin is because, well, the skin has got a lot of different things in it. Here comes a nyala. It's going to bark at her now. Just wait for it. It will happen. Well, she's just crept out this way, so I don't know if the Nyala can see her. You clever girl. Look at that tail. She's not watching the Nyala. She's not interested in the Nyala at all. She's interested in rather trying to get towards the impalas. Now, is the Nyala going to bark? Hello, girl. Off she goes, running and trotting and going away. Now, sorry, getting back into the skin. The skin contains some vitamins and minerals that they can't get from just meat. So there's a lot of fat and vitamin E, funnily enough, in skin. And so that's why they will eat the skin itself. They get a lot of nutrients from that. And they will try and kind of eat that to get those. And we know that there was a case where we had white muscle disease in the lions. And that was because they were battling to kind of get much vitamin E. And so in skin where there's animals that are healthy, they have a little fat layer, and that's really good for them. Now, of course, when you're hunting, it's important to scratch your head and make sure that you kind of get yourself ready to be able to chase animals. I don't know whether she's going to get this right. She's obviously been trying all day today because there's been alarm calls from this area most of the day, and she's obviously had a situation where she's kind of been trying to hunt in this long grass, but it's not easy for her. There goes a grey go-away bird calling. That's why her tail went up very quickly. And now she's on the road itself. So let's try and just keep up with her as she goes along and see if maybe, just maybe, we can have a situation where we can at least see her out in the open. But how cool is this to have Thandi walking around with us, and to have managed to find her in here is, like I say, a bit of a miracle. It was a lucky spot that we got to see her. Right, now that we've found Thandi, let's send you back across to Taylor and find out what she's going to be planning on doing. Maybe she can try and track down the cub.
Oh, we're just taking the day off. Thanks so much, Tristan, for holding the show for us this afternoon. I'm just joking. We found a fungi. I don't know what has happened to it. It looks like it has melted away or been struck by lightning. I highly doubt that it's been struck by lightning, but it's quite tall. And what can I poke it with? It does. Looks like it's been completely melted. I wonder if a tortoise or something hasn't come through here and maybe nibbled on it. But I don't see any fresh tortoise tracks, unless something like this has happened maybe a few days ago, and this is just sort of the remnants of it. But quite cool. Oh my goodness, it's like black tar. I wonder what's happened here. I've never seen anything like this before, especially with the fact that there's black all down on the ground. Anyways, something else that I found. Ta-da! It's quiz time. Who's ready for quiz time? Can you see that? Is it shiny? Right, I bet you're all so excited. Who can guess which bird? I always do this. Which feather this bird belongs to? I always get the two confused. Hashtag Safari Live, or talk to us via the YouTube chat. Let's see who's going to win it. I'll go in my book. See, I don't have a notebook today because I've now got no pens and I can't make any notes. I'm going to have to get the quill. I'm going to have to go into the tent and get one of those porcupine quills and perhaps some of that mushroom juice or whatever it is. That would be quite good. Or the quarry berries. Oh, watch out, Craig. Tumbuti tree got you. Now, we're actually walking in one of the coolest areas. I haven't been here for a very long time. And if you look down all these pathways, look how cool it is, sort of lined with tumbutis, and it's a big prominent animal pathway. Hippos will use it, buffalo will use it, all of these wonderful creatures, probably more likely kudu and inyala and impala. Now, Stacey, just going back to that fungi there, you've asked if there are any animals out here that would eat it. Yeah, tortoises, quite a lot of the tortoise species, probably the Speke's hinge tortoise would enjoy it. Well, now you've got a step as well. Oi, Craig is going to fall over. I'm going to laugh at him if he does, because everybody laughs at me when I fall. He's now going to go off the edge of the drainage line. A heart attack bird from crested francolins, scaring us to death. They always fly at the last second. They're such a nightmare. So tortoises would probably be the main one. I don't know if there'd be any bird species that would feed on a mushroom like that. Maybe some snails? Perhaps. There's African land snails or a slug. I don't really know. What else? I don't think what else would actually eat that. I wonder if a monkey. Monkey would pick, yes, definitely. A monkey would totally pick some mushrooms and feast upon them. And the baboons. Ooh, Ashton, you're just too good for me, aren't you? Yes, you're quite correct. This is indeed the feather of a Burchell starling. Well done. You win bragging rights today for bird quiz. We'll see if we can stump any more of you. Anyone else that got it as well? Well done. And I suspect that you were able to guess that because of the beautiful iridescence that you can see. There are not many birds out here other than the starlings that have this beautiful iridescence and that blue color. Very cool. And a bit too big to come from a Cape glossy starling. So I would have also guessed a Burchell's. Very nice. Okie dokie. Now, I heard some rumblings on the radio of another leopard somewhere around. I think Steve was following up. Let's go and see if he's heard the whispers of the wind.
Thank you. Yes, we have come to the other side where we left Hosanna this morning to be told that he is moving in a sort of westerly direction, kind of towards where we're sitting right now. So this is Torchwood that you're looking in now, folks. Chitwa is on the right-hand side of us there, and Juma is behind us. And this small little road that you can see running to that impala there is the fire break for Torchwood. And the guides from Nkoro had Hosanna moving west along this fire break only moments ago, directly towards where these impalas are. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit here quietly and just wait. The wind is in favor for this the little chief. It's blowing nicely into his face. He might come across these impala. But wouldn't that be marvelous to see Hosanna for a second time in the day? But as I said, the other guides left him because they couldn't see him anymore from the road. They had to remain on Gowrie Main and couldn't come into Torchwood. Becky, leopard identification is pretty accurate. Obviously, it takes a bit of time to get used to it, but the sort of the spot patterns that these animals have on their top, sort of above the whiskers, are, I wouldn't say unique to leopards, but you know, when you find a male in an area with a specific spot pattern, he generally remains in that area, and same with females. And after a period of time, you actually start identifying the cats from just from the way that they look. Like Hukumuri he's got eyes and a face that just is unmistakable for a leopard. And I know this morning when we first saw Hosanna, I thought maybe it was Tingana. I didn't see the face at all. I just saw the peering face from the side looking into the rooms of Chitwa Lodge. But after a period of time, you get quite familiar with the cats themselves, and it's taken me the better part of 2 months, I'd say, to start really recognizing these cats. But when you do understand the spot pattern, so 3 on the left, 3 on the right, something like that's a relatively small male, it's definitely Hosanna. When you're thinking of the Shadulu female, she's got 5 on the right, 5 on the left, and one of those dots are sort of above the other line, and that is kind of something that is following in her lineage. Her mother and grandmother apparently had a very similar spot pattern with a dot on top. So as you start spending more time with these animals, like humans and their moles on their face, or particular slants of the eyes or a way of the mouth, you start getting familiar with them. But it does take some time, but I know a lot of the viewers out there are very good with the identification of these cats, regardless of their camouflage. And let's go to Tristan with his camouflaged Tundi.
Well, indeed, she's as camouflaged as could be, and you can see why it's difficult sometimes to find these cats when we're driving around here. You kind of drive right past them, because only when you get very, very, very close in can you actually spot the rosetted pattern through that thicket. And you can see how well this kind of spot pattern works and how it's able to camouflage her as well as it does. Now, I'm parked very far away at the moment for a reason, because we have these deep drainage lines on both sides of where we are, and so some of the guys are on sort of the left-hand side of that drainage, and we're on the right-hand side, so that if she crosses over, which is what she was kind of looking like she was going to do, then we're in prime position to kind of follow her through. But if we go round to her side and she does cross over, it's going to be very difficult to keep up with her. Interestingly enough, though, she is at the place where we first saw the cub for the very, 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 very first time in the little den. So we're right at that same spot, and she's kind of back into that central area of Djuma again. And why she's back here, I don't know. Her behavior is something that is an anomaly in some respects, and obviously, as we've said many times before, these guys don't really read the books, and they don't really know anything other than instinct and what they can do to try and protect themselves. And so her scent marking behavior the other day, her extreme movement to the west, is a very strange one, given that Shadulu was in no way anywhere in that area until much later in that evening when she was crossed over from Arathusa. So it was a very strange kind of thing, but obviously she knows something that we don't, and maybe heard something that we didn't, and that's what prompted her to come down and start scent marking once again. Interesting behavior though, and she's brought this cub right back. Like I say, it was seen on the dam cam, brought the cub right back into the heart of Djuma once again, which is very interesting. But she's just stopped and watching. I wonder if there's not some impalas that side, or something that she could potentially be looking at. I wonder if it's worth risking going around. So Percy, normally about 6 to 8 months for a leopard to nurse the cubs. Depends on the female, but normally around 6 to 8 months. So that little one that she's got is now almost done nursing. It's going to be maybe another month or so, and then it will be finished with nursing, and well, not finished, it'll keep trying its luck, but it won't be nursing nearly as much as what it will reliant on nursing. It will be much more on meat than anything else. And it's probably why you find Tundi is such an active cat at the moment. In weather conditions like this, she's trying to find food, because as this little one grows, she now needs to find more and more food for not only her, but this little mouth that is probably constantly hungry. And so she's having to hunt a lot more, try and find food, and we know that her previous kill was stolen, so she killed something at the dam wall, and it was then stolen by hyenas and dragged away, and so her last meal was stolen. So she's got a lot of work to now try and find another meal for that little one. And things like scrub hares, while they were fine when that little cub was more on milk than anything else, that's now not going to cut it, because between the two of them, they're going to need a lot more food, and she's going to have to start killing things like duiker, steenbok, impalas, to try and sustain the two of them going forward. Vim, do you reckon we risk it and go around? Or do you reckon she's going to move? I also think she's going to move. Vim and I are of the same opinion, that she is going to eventually move. We just got to be patient and wait for her to do it. But like I say, the camouflage of these cats is absolutely unbelievable. You can see she managed to slink around that nyala without that nyala even batting an eyelid or knowing that she was right there, which to me is absolutely incredible, because she was kind of, for us, quite visible, but because of the bush that was between the nyala and her, absolutely melted away, and it was difficult for that nyala to see. It's interesting though, I would have thought she might have had a go at a nyala, but it's just, I think she knows that a nyala bull is just too big for her. She's an experienced cat, so it's, it's just not something that she really wants to target, because in all likelihood she's going to end up losing it anyway. Obviously, if a situation arises where a nyala bull runs straight at her, then you might find that she tries, but otherwise it's going to be a situation where she'll probably prefer to go after things like impalas. Good. Well, while we wait for her to move and see where she goes, let's send you back across to Taylor, who's investigating some branches.
We're not actually looking at the branch, though. We're looking at what's on the branch, which is caterpillar frass. Yep, I said it. Caterpillar poop is essentially what I'm talking about. I'm not sure what species of caterpillar was feasting upon this bush willow. However, that is very, very cool to see. Look, there's another patch of it over there. Now, sometimes what caterpillars do is they will defecate and, well, I suppose string it together with silk and then feed underneath it, forming some protection. And then also it's a very good source of compost. We always talk about how the nutrigen sort of cycle works, the restoration of dead leaves, dying, eventually decomposing into the soil. Takes a very long time. Caterpillars do it at a much, much quicker rate. So as soon as that frass does drop down onto the floor, it's basically like super, super, super awesome compost with lots and lots of different types of nutrients, and that the soil is going to be able to use at a much quicker rate than a dead leaf. So that's quite cool. Now, in other news, Herbie heard some buffalo. He heard that noises that herds of buffalo typically make as they communicate with one another. in that direction. So we're going to avoid Duggar boys today, and hopefully we're going to find a breeding herd and see if we can view them on foot. This is quite a nice area to view buffalo on foot. Lots of termite mounds, lots and lots of shrubs to hide away from the buffalo. So that's quite exciting. Well, we're going to keep moving in that direction. Let's go back to Steve to see if he's any closer to that other leopard.
Thank you very much, Taylor. Caterpillar poop, how marvelous. So, we haven't seen him yet. The last place they had him was just over here. I can see the vehicle tracks that have just gone off the side of the road here. And he was apparently moving west, directly towards where we had those impala moments ago. And they are a group of male impala that are starting to get into the rut. And we might go back there because they're not paying a huge amount of attention to what's going on around them. They're more interested in themselves. But we thought that they would be a good, reliable indicator of Hosanna trying to make an approach. There's another small animal. Samu, age 9. I have never heard of someone getting attacked by an impala, although once I was on a bushwalk once with 2 lovely ladies, and we were walking, and as we came to this sort of river depression drainage sort of crossing, we were about to go through it, and these 2 impala came tearing up from the other side, and we're going to come straight through our path. And I just sort of stepped back and sort of grabbed the ladies with my hand and moved them back as these 2 impala came through that gap and nearly cleaned us out, both of them. As soon as they saw us, they did an amazing acrobatic jump to the side, but it was very close call being run over by an impala. But if a human does get injured by an impala, it's not intentional. It's just, you just happen to be in the way of their escape. And when they're about to be horned by another male as they're running away and you happen to be too close, you could potentially get hit in the process, but they would not do it deliberately. And here's another animal that appears Hosanna has walked straight past. It is a male steenbok, standing very still. I don't even think I know what a steenbok's alarm call sounds like. Can you see him scratching there? There we go. That's what he's done. He's had a little bit of a toilet, and he's now burying his dung. That is what steenbok like to do. They like to bury it, and you can often see the shape from when the hooves have scratched and covered the dung. You can see his hooves working there. And the males actually leave a bit of a triangle shape in the soil, whereas the females, for some reason, leave more of a square. I don't know why that is, but it's just the way it is. Well, I'm actually going to prove that theory right or wrong now. As soon as he moves off, we're going to go and have a look what the shape of his little toilet looks like, because I might be getting it wrong about the shape. It might be a male that is square and a female that has got the triangle. But this is the opportunity, and this is how we learn stuff out in this environment, is we see an animal do something, we go and we look at it, and then we know this is what happens. Nick, when do steenbok start growing their horns? I honestly don't know. You never see baby steenbok. I've only ever seen one youngster. I've seen 3 steenbok together, a female, a male, and the youngster was suckling, and I've never seen a baby. So I'm sure probably after a few months or so they start growing them if they're males. I'm only guessing that because that's what impala seem to do. But they don't need to grow as long as impala, so maybe a little bit later. I really don't know, Nick. Sorry. Okay, well, let's go over to Tristan, who's got a cat, and the herbivores are staring it down.
Now, you can see we've got a whole bunch of impalas, so this is exactly what Tundi was watching from her side. So we had to loop a long way around, so we don't have any view of her at the moment. You can see the impalas are very, very flighty. They know something is up. There's a lot of wind swirling at the moment. They've been snorting and kind of making a bit of noise, and I think they know that there's something here that is not good for their health. And so they're all kind of just watching and looking, and you can see a little bit on the sort of side of caution almost is where the impalas are at, and the vehicles in the back are the ones where Tundi is, so we can't see her. She's somewhere in that area over there, so where VM's kind of pointing, that's the direction that Tundi's in. We just can't see her. The guys there said they can see her, and so she's kind of moving in this direction, but these impalas are so sort of aware of what's going on at the moment that the chances of them kind of being caught out in this situation is probably quite slim. Now, Bridget, the cub will probably started hunting already. It will be hunting small things, so little insects, lizards, birds, mice, those kind of things that would have started already trying to chase and hunt. I know Tiani, she killed her first baby duiker at 4 months old, so sometimes you'll have a situation where they're a little bit kind of young when they start, but generally you start to see them making their first kills about sort of 8-9 months to a year, and that will be small things, like I say, like little doves, lizards, anything really that they can get their hands on. They start hunting, and that's how they'll hone their techniques, and they'll learn by hunting things like scorpions, that's not a good thing to go after, or mice, and they kind of then try and find a way to figure it out and be able to bring things down. So eventually they'll graduate to things like impalas, normally when they're over a year old. Obviously sometimes there can be incidents before that. I've seen an 8-month-old leopard take down a fully grown male impala, which is pretty insane. So it just depends on circumstances, but generally impalas are reserved for when they're a little bit older. And we know Hosanna was an early bloomer. He took down an impala when he was about 13 months, so he did quite well as well. So we'll just see how this little one goes. But the fact that Tundi still has this cub, even in all this turmoil and drama that's going on between the leopards here and the lions, is absolutely a testament to how clever this female is and how she's able to kind of manipulate the situation to suit herself, which is amazing to me, because she's right in the midst of a complete leopard changeover, and that is really not easy to be able to cope with, and to be able to keep a cub alive in all of that is very, very, very difficult. So she's really done incredibly well, and like I say, I'm happy to be completely wrong in the fact that this little one is still alive. So very, very cool. And like I say, I'm 99.9% sure that that leopard that was seen on the dam cam 2 nights ago is Tundi's little cub, given that the movement of these leopards around and the fact that there's been tracks and alarm calls in the last few days, and then we find Tundi today. It can't really be anybody else, I don't think. And so I'm pretty sure that that little cub is alive and well, which is great news. So a good surprise for all of us. Paul, Tundi is quite far. She's walked the opposite direction of where that carcass is. So she's, I would say, as the crow flies, maybe just less than a mile. But there's nothing left of that carcass. There's literally absolutely nothing. It's just skin and bones. The vultures have eaten everything. So there's no point in her heading towards the carcass. She's not going to get anything out of it at all. She's going to have a situation where she's pretty much going to just get some bones, and that's not really going to do her any good. So she's not going to head towards there. Hyenas will clean that up during the course of the night. But you can see these impalas have no idea. Their francolins are alarm calling a bit, and they're kind of looking towards the francolins. They're chasing each other a little bit. No one really knows what's going on. I have a funny feeling Tundi's in this thicket straight in front of me. So this stuff there that I'm showing you now, that's where I think she's in, and she's kind of just trying to use the thicket to creep up along and around and get herself into a position where she's very close to these impalas and that she can grab them. The other thing is, though, is the impalas are very, very, very clever in that, look where they've positioned themselves in as open a bush as possible, and they're not going into the thickets on either side. They're trying to stay where they can see what's going on. Now, talking about impalas, it seems as though Steve has got a lone male that I'm sure Tundi would rather have than this grouping.
We do indeed. There's more than one lone male in the area, but they are spacing themselves out quite deliberately. And there was some antagonizing behavior before, which they have now stopped. Now the head is down and they are feeding. And Hosanna was apparently last seen heading directly in this direction from pretty much behind that impala. But we have had no joy as of yet, as we sit here and wait for the alarm calls and things to indicate to us the movement of a young cat like that beautiful little chief. So we're hoping we might hear from him. But while we wait, I went and took a photo of the steenbok scraping. We couldn't get a very good look at it on the camera because it was very hidden in the long grass. And here is a photo of it. You can see the size comparison with my knife there. And the male has made a triangle shape. Can you see how the angle here and in the top it comes into a form of a point over here, whereas the females make two parallel lines over there. So my memory served me correctly, but it's the first time I've actually seen one do it and then go up and investigate. You can see the very fresh earth, and they've secreted their dung in there. I didn't disturb it in any way, and you can see the size of it by the Leatherman, which is about 10 centimeters in length. So marvelous. I think I proved my own theory correct there. It's something I learned from a mentor years ago, Alan McSmith, who told me that males and females do that. Paul, no, females Springbok do not have horns, only the males. They both share a small territory, and the males use those horns for very deliberate fighting. When they do fight, it's very, very serious. The females don't, but they will also cover their dung like that. But as I said, they'll do more of a delicate shape. I think guys like the triangle. I don't know. Who knows why they do it that way? And a Steenbok is an antelope, and a Springbok is a gazelle. Let me show you. This a Springbok is actually quite similar in size to an impala. Weight-wise, I'd say there's a slight difference in weight. But let me show you in my marvelous little book over here. Steenbok is the second smallest animal we find in the Savanna Biome. And a Springbok is, as I said, about the size of the impala here. I hope it's in this book, Springbok. And the Springbok is our national animal, in fact. And here he is. There is, first of all, the Steenbok over here. And he is 50 centimeters at the shoulder and 11 kilograms. There's the female without the horns. And then here is the Springbok over here, which is 75 centimeters at the shoulder and gets up to about 41 kilograms. And we don't find any Springbok here in sort of the east of South Africa. If you have a look at the distribution map here, they're more of an arid specialist occurring from the Cape through the middle and into the Namibian side, where it's much more desert adapted. And if we look back at the Steenbok's distribution, they're in fact found all over the places. So they're very, very adaptable in their ability to ferret out little bulbs and tubers from the ground, and a very selective diet enables them to do quite well in these, well, relatively dry areas, especially in the west, very, very dry. So I don't see any sign of this beautiful cat. We're going to be patient though, but I'm going to move over there because I just saw a kudu. It's an animal I was trying to find for the kids on their school drive, but I was unsuccessful. I think she got my email, but she was late. She was expecting me on Chitwa. Okay, well, while we try reposition and have a look at this beautiful kudu, let's go over to Taylor on foot and see what interesting information she has for you.
Interesting info on how to swat flies that are biting you. Watch my legs. Where are they now? Here they are. They're hovering. They are horrible. Look. Okay, wait, let me reshuffle. Watch them all. Okay. It's not funny. Heavy's laughing at me. They bite so sore. They are horrible things, and they're plaguing us, and we're trying to get away from them. They're nasty. They're not horseflies. They're not the little mapani bees either. These ones are actually drawing blood. Craig, I think you're going to have to go first. Let me open that door for you. Okay. Back we go. Oh, Craig, I don't know. You're going to have to get over that one. I'm going to trot in. Canter. How great was that striding? Anyways. You know? Oh. That was sore. Hang on, I might actually may have twisted my ankle doing that. But unfortunately what I did do is I slipped on the very muddy surface. That bushwalks are not great when it's very muddy. And then slipped off the pathway. Right, we'll just walk it off. Walk it off, as my dad always says. Just walk it off. So I seem to have fallen on my wobbly ankle, Craig. It's not funny. It's mean. I'm going to send you to Steve, who's actually found the kudu.
Taylor Muddy McCurdy, the Marshmallow Queen. Have a look at what is about across the road. Quickly go to the back there. Look at this magnificent specimen. There's a massive kudu bull about to follow his ladies across the road, and look at him. He is an absolute beauty. Incredibly gorgeous individual. When it comes to antelope species, a male kudu of that size, everything about him is just super, super exciting. Just power. Oh, I absolutely love it. And he's doing very, very well. If you look at the number of ladies he's got in his little harem, hopefully we don't get my head in the shot. There's a couple ladies there, a few ladies, and some of his offspring. At least one of them was a male. I saw the horns. And a kudu, as an antelope, are a very reliable indicator of a predator. So they're moving into this area. Hopefully they'll spot the little chief and let us know his whereabouts. They have crossed from Chitwa, possibly drinking at the small pan there, and now they are moving in a northerly direction into Juma. Marvelous. Absolutely beautiful herd, Randy. I agree with you. Couldn't agree with you anymore. And I just find big male kudus sensational in their stature. And he is a dominant male, a breeding male. And I know I've mentioned it before that the male kudu, or kudu in general, are quite sensitive to breeding if a male is removed from the population. And it will take some time for a herd to accept a new male. And he is doing very, very well. He'll follow his ladies everywhere and challenge another male if they try to come in and compete. Riandi, how do you count the turns and the horns? There was a very nice photo sent to me on Twitter the other day, and maybe I can find that to give you the ages. But so essentially the first one comes up there about 6 months, and then it twists, and it's about a year, and then 2 twists gets you to about 2 and 3 years, and then 3 twists gets you above 4 or 5 years, and then they just sort of start spreading out more. And apparently the ivory tip, which I thought was a good sign of maturity, is not always something to look at, but when he's big like that, he's got more than 3 turns, and the horns just start getting bigger and more spread out. That is a very good indication of a dominant bull in his prime. Let's move around back onto this road on our right called Cheetah-Katlan, our completely eastern boundary with Torchwood. And we're still waiting for the little chief to potentially pop out of here. So it makes sense for us to just quickly deviate and go up this road and have a look if they come again. But while we do that, let's go back to Tristan, who's waiting for that elusive Thandi.
Well, she's not popped out. The impalas are just kind of going away from us a little bit now, and so I want to just go a little bit further forward so that we can maybe try and see if we can see where Thandi is in all of this thicket. I'm just going very, very slowly so that we don't have a situation where we spook her or the impalas. So apparently she's just here somewhere. So if we just get ourselves into a situation where we can kind of see where she is, that's going to help us a lot. So we have obviously very dense, thick bush, and that's going to make life a little harder. But she's kind of coming along to the right-hand side as far as I understand it. Can you see her there? So she's there. She's somewhere there. There she is. You can just see her behind all of that. So she's slowly but surely making her way around towards these impalas. Now that we've kind of moved out the way, it's one of those situations where she's going to use every little thicket she can in order to get her way around and closer to those impalas, which is good for her. She's got a really nice kind of area that she can stalk with, and so she has a good way to get closer towards them. It's a nice kind of dense area for her. So Jedi, I mean, obviously in this area it comes down to the fact that we see them so often that you just kind of see them straight away and you know exactly who it is. But it's a situation mostly with male and females, is that females are built differently to the males. The males have this big, bulky shoulder section, dewlap that comes down, massive head, whereas the females are a little bit more petite, a little smaller, a little bit more kind of compact, and there's this nice kind of sort of small head that they have, and that's generally for me how I spot the difference. Obviously in young individuals it's very, very difficult. Now let's just try and move back a little bit, VM, just so we can try and see. So the guys are just asking us if we're happy for them to kind of keep moving with her, which is absolutely fine, because we're going to kind of move a little bit further back again and just scan on this sort of fringe in case she's kind of coming back out again. I have a funny feeling she's just trying to worm her way along from thicket to thicket as she goes, and as long as we stay out of the thicket, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. It should be a situation where she'll be able to move around and the impalas are not going to kind of be drawn to that area if we're just sitting on the road. So I'm just going to try and kind of go down through this area. VM, if you see anything, give me a shout. So nothing so far, VM says, and I can't see anything. So this is where I would expect her to come out, is somewhere in this general kind of vicinity. So from that area to here is where I would think that she would go. The impalas are on my left-hand side, and so hopefully she does come out this way. Good. Let's just sit tight and see what happens and play the patience game. While we do that, let's send you to Steve and a little birdie.
A little birdie by the name of the little bee eater. Thank you, Tristan. So, ladies and gentlemen, I was going to say something to you all now. If I did updates on Facebook, I would probably be saying something now like, if I did updates, I never ever do that. Doing a spot of birding while waiting for a male leopard to emerge out of the bush. I think I've got the worst job in the world, actually. Definitely the worst job in the world. Doing a spot of birding while waiting for a male leopard to come out of the bush. Definitely a terrible job you and I have, Ferg. But hey, someone's got to do it. So I have a question for all the viewers out there, and I'd like to know if any of you are going to be able to get this. Seeing as we saw a Springbok, and now we have got a little bee eater. I would like to know if any of you are able to give me a link between the two, the little bee eater and the Springbok. What connection do they have out here, if any? There's definitely one. There's a connection that they have. I wonder if any of you are able to give me an answer. Hashtag Safari Live. Let me know what connection the little bee eater and a Springbok have in common. It's got nothing to do with the wording of... Got absolutely nothing to do with the wording of the names. Ferg's asking, is it because it's got two E's? No, that is not what I was looking for. It's something that they do in the environment. See if anyone can answer that question. Marvelous. Craig says that they're both small. That's not what I'm looking for, Craig. They are both small indeed, but there is something that they both do, or from time to time do. Steenboks cannot fly, Ferg. Not that I know of. Unless you picked it up and threw it, it would not be actually called flying. It's not really a trick question, but it's something to do with an organism we've already seen today. That's a little clue for you. A little clue. And we talk about them all the time. So Tristan is playing his patience game with Tundi. We will stick around in the area for a little while longer, and hopefully the little chief will emerge. Fantastic. Well, while we stay here and wait for you to send through your tweets and answers, let's go over to Taylor and the Hippo.
Now we're not going to they're not going to stay here long because these hippos are not happy, as you can see. That's just because we're walking, but we have got the advantage. We're higher up than them, and I think that might be a female that big bull was with, which would naturally mean that he's going to be very protective over her. But they see people having sundowners all the time, walking across the dam wall. They've got lots and lots of space to go. But because he's shown us that he's a little bit unhappy with us, we will just keep moving. But he didn't come charging at us. He didn't actually open his mouth. He didn't do any of those things. So he's also just a bit nervous of us. So just as scared as we, or respectful of hippos, as you and I should be of them, they're 10 times more afraid of us. And they want to be, of course, well, they want to show straight off the bat that they're big and scary. But before we move off from this hippo, there's a very, very cute mom with her little goslings swimming around. Look how those little ones are tucked right up behind mom, staying as close as they can. And they'll do a good job of trying to protect them as well. That's really cool. Okay, well, the hippos have settled down now, so we'll keep moving, but that was quite cool to see them. So I'm going to send you back to Steve, who's still doing a spot of birding.
Always doing birding. It is one of the advantages of having binoculars constantly around the neck. We had a small sounder of warthogs that ran straight past us a moment ago, and to add some information to you, there they are, just in the road up ahead. To add some information to just give you a bit of a clue, warthogs have a very similar sort of connection with these two, the steenbok and the bee-eater. There is a similar connection there. So now I think everybody should easily be able to get it. While the braid is working overtime. Ilona says they both eat shongololos, and I've never known of a steenbok to eat a shongololo. They are vegetarian by nature. We're going to go over to Thandi quickly.
Well, Thandi's on the move now. She's going closer towards the impala, and you can see she's got a massive gash on her front right arm. So the other day when we saw her, we didn't think she got a gash on her, but I'm pretty sure Shadulu, that's from the fight with Shadulu. I still haven't seen the video, but given that massive gash in that area, it has to be from her, unless she's had a fight with somebody else in the last few days. But on her front right leg, just close to the chest area, there's a huge, big, open, gaping wound that is still, it looks fresh, but it's at least something that's clean, and it doesn't seem to be any infection or anything like that. But you can see she's watching the impalas again, so she's in a situation where she's kind of trying to keep an eye out on these guys and trying to get herself into a better position. And it's amazing watching her go about her business. She's very circumspect about how she walks. She checks everywhere that she's going to go. There we go. You see now, look, she's getting low to the ground, and she's cutting off into the thicket. She's trying to find a way to cut these guys off and make sure she can get into a position where they are able to kind of walk straight towards her rather than her having to walk straight towards them. So she's just disappearing behind the thicket a little bit. The impalas are up in front. I don't want to disturb them too much. I'm going to just try and go slightly forward so that we can have a situation where we can just maintain where she goes. So she's just on my left, and I think if we park just to this side over here, there we go, there she goes again. So she's just slinking through the grass, going in that direction straight towards those impalas. So we're not going to move again. We're going to give her the space that she needs now. She's got herself into a nice dense thicket. It's going to be difficult for us to be able to see her, but it is a good place for her to hunt. Sadat, she might have, if it wasn't for two francolins that just disturbed her entire hunt, that exploded out of the bush as she was walking, and the impalas have now bolted, so she's not going to be hunting those impalas anytime soon, unfortunately. Those francolins have ruined it for her, which is probably not going to put Thandi in a good mood. There she comes now. She's got her tail up in the air, and she's kind of walking off away from us at the moment, so I'm just going to try and catch up with her quickly. There she is. She's just in front. Shame, that wound on her arm looks very raw and not very nice at all. And I didn't notice it the other day. Maybe if somebody else had noticed it, but I did notice that she had cuts and scrapes inside of her ears, and so it must have been her fighting the Shadulu, given the size of this wound. Now, she's on a mission, walking back towards the way we've come this afternoon, which is, I don't know if that's ideal or not. Let's see, so she's just through here, Vildi. Now we're going to try and squeeze our way through these horrible thickets that we've got. There she goes, she's just in front. Careful on the left, Vildi. We're going to try and get our way through here without decapitating ourselves. Given that we're in an area with a roof, it's not exactly that easy. Now I'm going to have to try and turn here. Now she's coming back towards where we are, so she should kind of go in front. There she is, so she's just in front of me now. She's just moving around in this thicket. You can see the top of her head as she goes, and there she's going to kind of just keep crawling back towards sort of Vulture's Nest in the Mulawati. Now it seems as though she's stopped there. Let's just quickly get forward because she might be stalking something in the grass. She's a great exponent of a scrub hare or a sort of small animal lying in the grass, so she just kind of stopped and went low to the ground. So I just want to double check what she was looking at. Now it's so dense here, I can't see her anymore. Is she far, Vildi? So it seems like she's kind of disappearing further and further away from us. Right, while we try catch up with her again, let's send you back across to Steve, who's just got on to Chitwa.
We've decided to turn around and come back into Chitwa to see if the little prince maybe gave everybody the slip. But I wonder what happened to Tundi. Shame, poor girl. But if she's moving around and hunting, she can't be that badly injured, can she? And if she gets a meal in her belly, very quickly sort her out. Ilona had said all of those animals eat shongololos. No, Ilona, possibly warthogs eat shongololos, but apparently my mom's dog eats shongololos. I thought it was quite strange. She told me that after I mentioned it the other day, how distasteful they are. But no. Annie, you have won prize number 1 today. They will all live in a termite mound. Little bee eaters have been known to make their whole nest inside the top or inside the roof of the burrow of a termite mound or in a riverbank, but sometimes in termite mounds. So marvelous, Annie. You have won prize number 1 this afternoon, which is a round of applause from me and from Fergus. Well done. Well done for getting that right. Not too much of a trick question, folks, I hope. This is exactly where we left Hosanna the other night. We had a whole herd of impala over here while you were all enjoying a long sort of standoff with Tingana and a warthog. We had Hosanna just lying here in the road with a marvelous group of impala, not knowing he was there really, and he just decided, okay, I'll go to sleep. There we go. What would an afternoon at Chitwa be without seeing a waterbuck? Holly, you have asked me a question that I am trying to rack my brains about. The difference between a gazelle and an antelope. I know there are a few. There are a few differences, and my brain has just lost it. I don't know. I'm trying to think again. I'm 100% sure either Taylor or Tristan will have the answer to that. It is an answer I do know, but we don't spend a lot of time with gazelles. So it's something I don't talk about very often, so I have forgotten, and I'm terribly sorry, Holly. Please, will you forgive me? But maybe we can throw that question back over to Tristan Dix, see if he can remember. Off goes the waterbuck, away from the water. Do you know, Fergus, the difference between a gazelle and an antelope? Fergus gives the very intelligent answer of the spelling, Holly. That is not what you're looking for, though, I know. So Fergus will get a smack on the hand just now. which just now in South Africa means in a little bit later. A little bit later, exactly. When we're off air. Well, let's go over to Taylor, see if she knows the answer to the difference between a gazelle and an antelope.
I don't even know what the question was. I got distracted because we had sundowners. We didn't. We're about to nibble on some snacks as we bumped into Pippa and Yuri, who are the owners of the wonderful Juma that we drive around on. So we're just having quick chats. No, I'm not answering that. That's Steve's thing. We're talking about hippos. We're back with our hippos. We basically just walked across the damn wall, and now we've come back again. Have a look here. Now, I definitely think it's a mating pair because that hippo was so close to that other one. Now they've both gone underwater. And it was quite funny, though. Oh, let's very quickly go to Tundi, who's out in the middle of the road.
So she was on the road for brief 2 seconds and now back into the thicket she goes. And so back to where we basically started this whole thing. And yes, Rebecca, she is very sneaky. She's probably the sneakiest of our leopards, and that's what makes her, I suppose, part of it, what makes her so fun to try and find and follow. There's some semblance of a challenge with Tundi, and I like that. So I was just, Viam and I were talking about it now. We wonder how many hours the two of us have looked for this cat over the course of the last 6 months, and how many hours we've actually spent with her. I think we've probably looked for her double the amount of hours that we've actually spent. So she can be elusive, she can be difficult to kind of keep in your sights, but that's okay. It's, like I say, part of the charm for her is being able to kind of try and find her and try and see where she heads. So she's a cool cat. I always enjoy spending time with Tundi, and it seems as though she's coming back with a vengeance into this area. She's not kind of slowing down at all. She's moving quite a bit. There she is, right there. Look at that. So, difficult to say. I mean, we obviously spend a lot of time. I think Hosanna probably would be the leopard we've spent the most time with, or I've spent the most time with since I've been at Juma, and followed by Hosanna, probably Tundi, and then probably after that I would say Tingana or possibly Tumba, one of the two of them. Probably Tingana, actually. We've seen him more than that, and then Tumba, and then from there maybe Shadow and I don't know. From there it's difficult to say. It's a kind of toss up between all of the leopards that we've had. So I would say probably Hosanna, though, by a long way. The leopards are given names by the guides in the area. So even Tundi's cub, Tlalamba, was a name given by the Juma guides, and Herbie and Taxon and Aubrey and Rexon. It was nothing to do with us here at Safari Live. We just asked them, and that's the names that they came up with. So it's given to the animals by the guides. Some of them from Juma, if they're born on Juma. Sometimes from guys that are working in other parts of the reserve. So that's who gets the naming rights. Generally where the animal is born, that particular lodge that kind of has the rights or owns that area, or even, like I say, traverses that, will be able to decide on what the leopard is called. Right, now I'm hoping, because she's heading in a direction where we came from, that she might be heading back towards her little one. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping she's going to head there and kind of take us back to Tlalamba, because it would be nice to finally see that little one. It's been a long time. I think the last time we saw it was a number of days ago, and so it would be just good to kind of catch up, see how it's doing, and just spend some time with the little one. But Tundi's making it not easy in order to be able to do that, so we're going to try and keep up with her. This block is not very, very fun at all, so we're going to try and kind of reposition ourselves and get into a situation where I can actually follow her, because the problem with her is you leave her for 1 second and she disappears. Now I'm obviously letting some of the other guides go in front of me, and also trying not to rip my own arm off from a buffalo thorn, which is not gone very well at all. So there's buffalo thorns all over the place, which makes for very difficult sort of negotiation. And like I say, I've ripped my own arm off, and everybody in front of me seems as though they're having a bit of a struggle with buffalo thorns as well. So not ideal at all. There we go. They're through, which is good news. Now we can get through. We're going to take a slightly more wider approach. Be careful. We don't want your buttocks pinned to a buffalo thorn. That's the buffalo thorn in question. The buffalo thorn that has caused a few rips in a couple jackets in front. Now I've got to try and get 2 or 3 of them out of my own arm. So sometimes they stick into your skin, and so just got to try and get them out. Anyway, there we go. I think we're all good now. And so while we kind of do that, let's send you back across to Steve.
Indeed, something you don't want sticking into your skin, Tristan Dix, is a crocodile's teeth. Here we are at Chitwa Dam with 2 very brave water thickneys sitting very close to the tail of the crocodile, and an enormous Nile crocodile sitting on the bank. And thanks to Judy H. for sending me an article last night which goes to show that crocodiles, apparently in new science, has been shown that they're not that much older than humans, which I thought was incredible. We've done some studies all over Africa, and there's 2 different species, the Nile and what they're thinking of naming as the sacred crocodile, which is a much more placid and tame crocodile that the Egyptians apparently used in a lot of ceremonies. I think that species name is called Sukra or something to that extent. Why anyone would even think of trying to swim with a crocodile is beyond me, but apparently those ones are much more docile and easier to play with. So interesting that they say through phenology and identification and science that they're not that much older than humans. Trish, this is your favorite crocodile. Well, maybe we should name it Trish. What do you think? I don't know if it's got a name yet, but Trish does sound like a marvelous name for a crocodile. No offense at all meant there, Trish. Trish the crocodile, hey? Does that roll off the tongue? Well, it kind of does. And do crocodiles have tongues? No, apparently they do not. Judy H. sent me an article as well that said crocodiles do not have tongues, but alligators do. So thank you for all the information that comes through. Saves me having to do some homework, but I am going to have to be doing some homework this afternoon on the difference between gazelles and antelope. But one thing I do know is that crocodile there does not matter the difference between between gazelles and antelopes. It will eat them very much the same as it would eat anything else. Yes, indeed, Bex. Crocodiles eat crocodiles. One of the biggest predators of crocodiles is, in fact, larger crocodiles. So, lurking in the waters with larger crocodiles, you wouldn't think it's safe. They're very instinctive. They don't look at you and go, "Hello, little brother, come to the ranks and let me help look after you." No, they'll go, "Gobble, gobble, gobble." Might sound quite different to that, with a bit of splashing. But a marvelous specimen. And the hippos, as always, doing their thing in Chitwa Dam. Rainbow, you apparently are supposed to be able to tell the difference between male and female crocodiles. And I'm thinking it's got something to do with the tail, but then I'm lying to you if I could tell you correctly right now what that is. So it looks like I am going to be labored with lots of homework this afternoon. Beautiful afternoon at Chitwa Dam. The light is perfect for this time of day. Bex in NFC, Final Control, says, strangely enough, this crocodile is quite relaxing. What do you folks out there think? Do you think looking at a crocodile is relaxing? I'm not sure. I am not sure. Ferg reckons it's quite relaxing. But then I have been on foot many times and seen a crocodile like that, and it is not relaxing. It makes your pulse go and everything within your body say, "Oi, let's go the other way." So I have gone and done a little bit of a Google search. So male and female crocodiles. Crocodiles have internal sex organs, which makes it very difficult to tell them apart unless you're conducting a very close inspection. When males are ready to mate, their penis will extend out of the vent so it can enter the female's vent. But other than that, I don't know. I do not know. I think I've been told in the past it's something to do with the tail, the length of the tail, but I really don't know. I'll have to investigate that a bit further. What we do know is that is an enormous crocodile, and it is enjoying the view of Chitwa Dam. Just have a moment of silence there, shall we, while we listen to the birds and hippos around the dam do their thing. So, and everybody taking a deep breath as we take in these beautiful surroundings. We're going to go back over to Taylor McCurdy, who's got another feather challenge.
And now I'm going to ruin it with the sound of my voice. I'm just joking. This is really beautiful, though. Perfectly placed tree, dead tree, with the sun just peering down from the clouds. It's like the first time in 2 days that I've seen the sun. How magical. I think that Steve is going to have a really pretty sunset at Chitwa tonight if there aren't too many clouds in the western corner. Right, who's ready for another feather quiz? Are you? I am, because I know what it is. What's this? Just tricking Craig there. Rebecca's just told me that it's a feather. Rebecca's directing to go. Thank you very much, Captain Obvious. You're quite correct. It is a feather, but I'd like to know which bird it belongs to. Hashtag Safari Live. Let us know. It's a pretty one. It's I've never collected one of these feathers before. It's a new one. It goes in with my Burchell Starling feather. So I'll wait for you to all give me some answers. We're now just walking down the fire break off of Buffelshoek Cut Line from the dam, just having a little look around to see what we can see. Of course, we're going very slowly. Now, Paula, there are many fabulous things about bushwalk, let me tell you. They really, really are. Well, Craig almost joined the limping gang. What happened, Craig? Did you just fall into that hole? I don't know what's actually going on today, but there's many a hole. The ground is pretty slippery. It's so funny. Are you okay, Craig? Payback for laughing at me. Anyway, so sorry, Paula. Rudely interrupted there. The coolest thing about being on foot, on being on a bushwalk, is the fact that there are many different animals roaming around. There could be a lion around the next corner. There could be a herd of buffalo. There could be a rhino bull wallowing in a mud wallow. There's just endless opportunities of different animals that are around here. So the fact that I can say I'm walking over a lion's tracks that is walking here a few hours before is pretty spectacular. It heightens your senses like I've never experienced anywhere else before other than the South African bush. You really become sort of in tune with nature because you're having to listen. You're using your eyes a lot more. You won't believe how acute your sense of smell gets. It's pretty amazing. So I think that's one of my favorite things. And then the other really cool thing is that you're on the floor, you're eye level with a lot of insects, a lot of the smaller things that you just drive past. So you see a lot more. Like today, I've never seen a Marabou Stork's footprints. I don't know why I've never seen them before. Sorry, I'm being attacked by the flies, so I'm still swatting them with my book though. Go away. Anyways, so So that was really cool. That's something new that I've never seen before. So that's nice. Finding an insect that you've never seen of, you've only read about, or a beautiful butterfly. I found a bird's nest today of a firefinch, which was really cool. I've never seen a firefinch nest before. It flew out, but it was so tangled in a sickle bush, obviously for defense. They've got nice big thorns on them. We couldn't get the camera in there to have a look, and we didn't want to move branches around to disturb it, but it was basically a nest very similar to a waxbill's nest with grass, long bits of grass all woven, but it was in a ball like that with an entrance like that, and there must have been about 4 or 5 tiny little white eggs in there, which was really cool, something I'd never seen. Anyways, off you go, back to Tristan Tundy's On the Go.
Well, Tandy hasn't stopped being on the go today. She's being a nightmare to follow, but there's a nice termite mound here, so let's reposition here quickly, Vildy. Maybe we get her on the mound and she's going to actually just sit still for 2 seconds today, because I feel like we've been beaten and bashed trying to follow her today, and she's going into an area that's not any better or any more friendly to what we're going to try and achieve. So hopefully it will all kind of... So Consumer and Paul, the reason her tail's up when walking, it's not you not picking it up, but there's alarm calls, very faint alarm calls, mostly from birds. So things like francolins and grey go-away birds. And so what she's doing... Oh, sorry, Vildy. That's not ideal. We've just gone into a spider web, I'm afraid, which is not what I wanted at all. And so she's being shouted at, and what she's doing is to try and then tell everybody, I'm not hunting you, stop shouting at me, stop making so much noise, I'm trying to hunt something else. And so that's why she's kind of puts her tail up. It's almost like a white flag, surrender, leave me alone. I've got a big branch by the sounds of things on the car. There we go, that's off. Now where is she gone? Oh, she just moves so quickly, it's impossible to keep up with her. Well, we're going to try and keep up with her and try and kind of get there. So, like I say, it's just more to just kind of tell everybody, I'm not hunting you, I'm not coming after you, stop shouting at me, leave me to kind of carry on, and then she will move on. Now, there's a nice big termite mound. I'm hoping she's heading towards there. Just given where the other cars are, that's what I'm hoping she's going to head to. But with this long grass, it's making life very difficult, as Taylor and Craig have got first-hand experience. Can't see anything, and you end up going down ditches, you end up kind of hitting stumps that you don't want to be hitting. It really is a nightmare when you're off-roading in conditions like this. It's not ideal, and hopefully we're going to see a situation where it's going to start drying out at some point, and the grass is going to start dying back a little bit, because at this stage it feels like we're going to be taken over by grass and we're going to be enveloped, which is not ideal. Oh. Poor Rusty at the moment is just getting a bit of a beating. Anyway, we're going to try and find where Tandy is. Oh, there she is. She's just ghosting past us and kind of moving forward. But while we do that, let's send you back across to Taylor for the answer to her feather quiz.
I bet you're all so excited, sitting on the edge of your seats, wondering what feather was I holding up. Well, it's this one again. You can have a look at it. So, there were many, many different answers, good guesses, well tried, but the correct one was from Michelle, who guessed a francolin, and the crowd goes wild. You now have birding bragging rights. You're quite right. This is from a crested francolin, which is really, really cool. I've never ever found one before, which is surprising because there's so many raptors out here that do feast upon crested francolin and Tull spurfowl and all those different types of things. We've gotten a Tull spurfowl added to the list after the African hawk eagles was eating one yesterday, so that's quite nice. I'm adding lots and lots of new feathers to my collection. I will have to, at some point, on a quiet drive, take them out and then have a look and see how many I actually have now. Basically, when I just pull apart one side of my book where I store my feathers normally, my goodness, just so many of them. But I'm always on the lookout for them. Wonderful. It seems as though Tandy has been so lovely this afternoon. Tristan's got another look of her.
Well, I'm not sure Tandy would be, being lovely would be a way that I would describe what we've been through today. She's been an absolute delight and a little, you know, good as gold leopard as she's moved and posed so nicely for us non-stop. But anyway, we're in a slightly more open section, so I think we're going to get a good view of her for a little bit now, which is quite nice. Hello, girl. You've given us the runaround today, haven't you? You see, she's sniffing about. This is her little tactic, is she likes to do this. She likes to kind of go in these long grasses and try and disrupt a scrub hare or a duiker or a steenbok and then go after it. But let's just see. Just sniffing around and looking. I think this is the longest she's been still this whole afternoon. You can see her ears, her left ear in particular, has taken a bit of a beating in the last few weeks. If you compare that left ear from photos in December to now, you'll see it's a lot more tatty than what it was. So I think that's where Shadulu must have got hold of her. She's got a big cut inside that left ear, and then the other cut is on her right inside leg. Now hopefully she walks straight towards us, and we'll be able to show it to you. There it is. You see it there. It's difficult to see, but there's a big gash under her sort of... There it is. Hello, Tandy. Hey, my girl. Nice to see her. So she's such a cool leopard. I could sit all day with her. She drives me crazy because it's so tough to keep up with her, but she really is the most epic of leopards. So hopefully she's going to go up onto this termite mound. There's a nice termite mound that she's heading towards, and if she goes up there, it's going to be absolutely beautiful. There we go. Good girl. All right, let's get ourselves into a better position, and hopefully, Wiem, we can get you a sunset with Tandy, which is what Viem's been wanting for quite some time. So let's try and just get around and see. Oh, go up there, girl. That's it. That's it. You're in the right place. Now, let's just try and get ourselves a little bit further forward. Wiem, you say when. Of course, there would be a poll today. I'll try and just get the pole out the way. But how beautiful is that? Sunset and Tandy kind of backdrop by that sunset is as good as one could ever ask for. So she's kind of spoilt us a little bit in that regard. That is absolutely beautiful. Finally, so a bit of perseverance and patience has been rewarded with our girl sitting on top of a mound with the sun setting. Wiem, that's 2 sunsets and leopards in the space of a few days. You're on a roll, exactly. It's very good job. Well done, Wildy. It's not easy to get them. And now she's said, that's it, boys. We're not spoiling you too much. We're going to carry on and see what else I can find. Of course, she was just up there to look for any signs of food items that could be in the area. Now, I'm going to try and kind of keep up with her through here. This is the same place we lost her the other day when we followed her through hell and back. And so I'm pretty sure we're going to go for a nice little walk through a very big thicket. Now, I'm going to try and get out of the mess I've gotten myself into. So while I do that, let's send you back across to Steve with apparently an iconic view.
Iconic view indeed. It's getting prettier and prettier by the second with the iconic bird of Africa, the African fish eagle. Surveying his territory. I've only ever seen one fish eagle around Chitwa Dam. I'm not sure where the second one is. Oh, there are 2. Ferg's seen 2. I've only ever seen 1 at a time. See, I'm pretty sure it flew up there from the dam where we were earlier, and it is enjoying the same sunset view that we've been watching for the last few moments. Well, absolutely gorgeous skies, gorgeous birds. You can hear the starlings in the background making a whole lot of noise. Nice one, Ferg. That's beautiful. One last view of the setting rays of the sun. The sun is gone already, but just the last rays as they paint the sky and the beautiful clouds. What a beautiful world. Thank you, Ferg. Now we're going to move on, folks, and there doesn't seem to be any sign of the little chief coming down. We're going to have one more little go where we last saw him, and then barring that, we'll decide on what to do next. Off we go. Got a little bit of a squeak in my left wheel, which often happens when we get mud in there. It's the mud moving through the wheel bearing or the brake pad. It seems like Tristan, though, has managed to get another look at Tundi, so let's go quickly over to him.
We do indeed. No, don't go down the mountain. So we had a view of Tundi, but it didn't go. Now you've got a moth on your lens, VM. Let's get rid of it. Off. Hey, there we go. So moth is gone. Now we are going to have to make space, though. There is a vehicle that does want to come join, and we've been in the sighting for quite some time, so we're going to try and get one last kind of view of her before she goes into the real dense stuff and the guys lose her, so that at least the other vehicle can get a chance and can have a sort of good look before it gets too dark, because inside here it's going to be very difficult for anybody to follow her, and so I don't want the other guys to lose out. So I'm going to try and get into a situation where we can at least give her a little chance, well, give them a chance to come in and have a little look, because she's in stalk mode once again. So she's not going to go back to the cub. The way that she's moving around is in a situation where she's hunting. She's not wanting to try and kind of go to the cub right now. She's trying to find food, and so the chances of us being led back to the cub this evening is probably very slim. We're going to have to hope that she's successful in some way. Now we're going to do some minor gardening quickly. There we go. It'll all just should pop back up, I hope. Anyway, good. I think, like I say, let's try and leave it here with the other guys, and that's so that they can get a chance. And like I said, there's somebody else that needs to come through, so we're gonna let them in. And like, it's just, I don't even know if I can get through here. She's just to our right-hand side, VM. Can you see her through there? So before we kind of leave her for last time, there you can just see her spots through the thicket. Right, now she's still kind of moving around, and I think she's spotted something again that she's busy stalking. But while we kind of figure out what she's doing and try and figure out a way out of here, let's send you back across to Taylor and see what she thinks about Tundi's shenanigans this afternoon.
Tundi shenanigans. I'm just glad that we've managed to catch her again, because she seems to be the one that gives us the slip all the time. Now, we're looking at some very old lion tracks, or from the last few days. It was quite nice to see. As you can see, the big, let me try to hop out of the way, big male tracks. So here's the back of the foot. So big, it's huge. And then the toes. And then here's the front foot over here. It's been stood on over by the back foot. And very cool. I mean, they make my hands look tiny. It's incredible. Really, really cool. I'm hoping that we get to see some male lions soon. It's been quite some time since I've last seen a big male lion. I think the last time was the Birminghams, when there were 3 of them, just off Mvubu Road, quite close to one another. I think that was literally the last time that I got to see a male lion track. I mean, actual male lions. I've seen many a male lion track in the last few days. They just seem to be MIA at the moment. Now I've got a thorn in my pants. Right, let me get rid of that. It's always funny when you bend down or you sit down on the grass, you collect all sorts of things. Let's see what else we can find here. It's a little bit quiet in the bushwalk. I haven't actually seen very many insects at all today, which is surprising. I thought as the day sort of warmed up, because it definitely did that in comparison to this morning's temperature, I thought that they all would have come out after the nice rain. The only thing that has been out and about are all the birds. The birds have been very chirpy and very chatty this afternoon. I think they're quite excited. It looks like, although it looked like the rain was going to go, but it looks like there's another embankment of clouds moving on in. We have to wait till 11 o'clock. Oh. Very cool. Look at all the ants on the road, running around, trying to make use of the last light of the day. Right, off you go to Tristan, who apparently is having his heart broken.
I don't know what Taylor said, but Tundi is kind of, every time we try and get out, she just pops up right next to us and gives us a nice view. I was having my heart broken by Tundi. No, not today. I'm always joyous when I find Tundi. Yesterday she broke my heart. Yesterday she was being a pain and wasn't letting me find her. So she broke my heart yesterday. But today it's fine. As long as I find her, I'm happy. And as long as we can see her and moving around, doesn't matter how long it's for. It's just nice to have a kind of view of her. Now, we tried to tell the other guy where to go, and I don't think he's actually going to be able to get in here. It really is a horrible nonsense place. There's quarantine in the distance over there, so the dam and quarantine on the other side of this thicket. And so what I want to try and do is just help these guys, because these guys that are here with me at the moment said they need us with our car, and the other guy said it's fine. He's going to stand by on the nearest road, and once we get to the road, then we're going to just leave her with the rest of them. So that's the kind of plan. What's she spotting? She's slinking around all over the place today and bouncing, and she's almost like I got a bit of Tigger in her today. She's sort of all over the place and being a very typical leopard. And this is why you've got to love leopards, is that, and why we have a situation where, like I say, I like Tundi, because you'd never found her. If it wasn't for those first alarm calls, it would have been a long afternoon of trying to drive around in circles. And I mean, she's walked on the road maybe 4 minutes out of this entire afternoon. And so it just goes to show why we struggle to find her sometimes. You know, we pick up tracks for her, but then you've got to go through thickets like this and bushes, and it's zigzagging all the time with her. And it just goes to show that's why it's so difficult to find leopards from time to time. And now she's a relaxed cat. Can you imagine a cat that doesn't want to be seen? How easy it would be for them to hide away. And just goes to show why we don't see the likes of Gajima and even this female with the 2 cubs that are on Buffalo's Hook, who are, by the way, pushing further and further south. The tracks for them were seen yesterday on the Buffalo's Hook Juma cut line, which is pretty interesting. So they are slowly but surely pushing south, and I wonder if one day we're not going to catch them on a kill somewhere. Sky, I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like Tundi, in fact, is actually pushing more into this area and back to the central parts since she's had that fight rather than going away. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all works, and interesting to see whether or not Tundi is backing down, or she's now saying, well, I don't care that you're here, I'm coming back, and I'm going to make sure that you don't come and take my area. What we really want, though, is we want a situation much like what Tundi and Shadow had, where Tundi was to the east, Shadow to the west, and they kind of then settle on that, and we have a situation. There she goes. Oh, she's chasing a duiker. So there's a duiker just in front of us that's just run off to the left. Now, I don't know where she is. Oh, she's just disappeared. There she goes. She's right behind it. So she's just come out behind the duiker. That's where the duiker went. The duiker was no more than, I would say, 30 meters in front of her, not even. Let's see, she's just sneaking through. Typical leopard. How are we going to keep up with this? I have absolutely no idea, but we're going to try. I don't want to disturb this hunt for her either. Maybe this little gap here we can use. As soon as I can see the duiker, I can turn off. The duiker, can you see it, Liam? So behind there apparently is a duiker, and then Tundi should be in tow fairly shortly. She was also kind of bolting off in that direction as well. I don't know. Let's try and get around. Oh, that's a little branch there. That's not ideal. Oh. This is a very, very pleasant bush to drive around in. Where is she now? She must have run in this direction towards where I am. I've lost her now. Maybe just see. the guys are next to me here, so I'm just checking further south. She should pop out here somewhere, so we should have a situation where we should be able to see her there. Is that her there, Bim? Straight ahead of us, basically. Where these guys are. No, that's not her there. Alright, so we're going to have to try and sort of do this and try and find where she maybe went. While we do that, let's send you back across to Steve.
Thank you very much, Tristan, and well done for keeping up with Tundi for as long as you have. We've got a little family of Nyala here. I'm just trying to get positioned to see if we can get them on film. They have just disappeared in the bushes there. Very similar sort of structure to what we saw earlier with that kudu bull. There they are, Ferg, just moving through there. Also getting our IR lights ready for...
Came to me when I was busy.
You just see the Nyala off to the right here as they're moving. Not very easily seen. Just, there goes one. Just the ears and the stripes and the poll. Apologies. And there was a male as well lurking behind, but they all seem to have... Oh, here they come. Here comes the male. And very similar to we were seeing the kudu earlier, the male following behind. Here comes another female. It'll be shortly followed by the much larger and dark chocolate brown horned male Nyala. 3, there he goes. Nice and stealthy in the long grass, aren't they? And that is about as good a visual as we're going to get of them this afternoon. We have decided to come back onto Djuma, and we are on our eastern boundary. Cheetah Cutline had one more little look for the little chief, and he has not materialized. So who knows where he's gone. Okay, then allow them without disturbing their peace. Here come the striped individuals now. They are a very beautiful animal. You see how they walk in that very sort of deliberate line, all following each other, and as their front foot steps, their back foot steps in the exact same spot. There is, it looks like a little bale. Did it have horns there? No? Very pretty. From Torchwood into Djuma. Have a look where the back foot steps, exactly where the front foot was. That is very typical of the Tragelaphus family or tribe. It is the way that they walk. The spiral horned antelopes. Almost on she's got an injured leg, that one. She was very much on her tiptoes. She did look like she had high heels. And this is a good way to learn tracks, is to watch animals walking, like I did with the Steenbok earlier, the little digging. Watch how they walk, see where they walk, and then go there and have a look. And then you know for a fact this is a Nyala bull, this is a Nyala cow, this is a young Nyala. Because you can get confused between kudu and Nyala tracks, especially a big bull like that versus a female kudu. It's easy to get confused. They walk very similarly, that direct register. Azura, kudu, Nyala, eland, and bushbuck all come from the same family or tribe known as the Tragelaphus. All Tragelaphus genus, meaning spiral horned, and the Nyala is the smaller of the two when it comes to kudu. We get the bushbuck, which is the smallest, then the Nyala, then the kudu, and then the largest antelope in the world, the eland, which gets close to 1,000 kilograms in weight. And they also walk like that, but you don't always see the way they walk, because they don't often walk, they often run. When they run, they don't leave the same indentation on the floor. So marvelous indeed. Well, it looks like Tristan and his very relaxed Tundi, who loves him so dearly, does not want to let him go. Let's go back over to them.
Well, no, we don't, but it's only because she's being a handful and is difficult to follow during this afternoon, and it's made it very tough. But like I say, luckily the Land Rover's being shorter and smaller, can get through these places, and that's the only reason we've stayed with her, is just to try and keep her for the other guys. Now that she's settled on top of a termite mound, we're going to leave and let the other guys get in. We're right next to the big jackalberry off Gowrie Cutline, which is the perfect place for anybody to enter into the sighting. So we're going to be courteous and let them in now while she's still sitting, and try and go and see what else we can find. It's been an epic afternoon of off-roading and putting Rusty through the paces. Poor Rusty, I think, is aged 20 years after this afternoon's game drive, but luckily she's finally kind of settled down, which, like I say, will allow the other vehicle to get into the sighting, which is very good news for them, because we don't want them not to see a leopard. It's always nice for everybody to share in a bit of leopard fun. Look at that tail. She's still watching something, so she's not going to be up there for very long at all. Right, let's carry on. Let's see what else we can go and find and see what there is. And while we do that, let's send you back across to Taylor so she can say goodbye.
Yes, sadly we are going to have to go home soon. We're quite far away though, so Eggsy, aka Zander, our editor-in-chief, he is coming to rescue us. Not that we need rescuing, but it's quite nice to call it a rescue vehicle, isn't it? But we are safe, don't worry about that. We're just bumbling down the road now. It is a little bit too dark to be sort of walking through the thicket now. The light has faded quite a bit. Now, tomorrow, it depends on how much you enjoy the bush. That would really determine how long a bushwalk is. I mean, obviously, our bushwalks that we do here are slightly different, so we tend to do 3-hour-long bushwalks. If it's in the afternoon, it's always light dependent, and because it's quite an overcast evening, we're going to probably have to head home a little bit earlier. However, when I'm with guests, I mean, I've done the bushwalk, which is the worst bushwalk you can ever do in your entire life, which is between game drives after breakfast, which is normally about an hour to an hour and a half. It is so hot and unpleasant. If you come to South Africa, I promise you right now, substitute one of your morning safaris and go on a proper bushwalk. That was my favorite thing to do with my guests, was to say, right, we've seen all the most amazing animals. Let's not walk when it's, 39 degrees Celsius and you've had breakfast and you're tired because you've been up since 4:30. Let's enjoy it. Get up, have a nice cup of coffee, watch the sun rise from the lodge, and once it's light enough, off you go. And then go and do a 3-hour walk like you would do a game drive. It is so cool. So that was my favorite way to do bushwalks, but not everybody enjoyed that. I mean, obviously you have to understand that when you do a bushwalk, the chances of you seeing big animals on foot are about this big. About this much. We're going to talk about plants, we're going to look at insects, we're going to look at track and sign of the bigger animals, but the idea of a bushwalk is not to see how close you can get to the animals. If you're just lucky enough to stumble across a herd of elephants drinking at a dam, great. If the conditions are fine, then you can view them. Otherwise, you typically leave the big game alone and you focus on the smaller thing. But it's really quite nice to get sort of in touch, sort of do more of a holistic walk. Than sort of chase after the big animals. It's obviously exceptionally dangerous to do something like that. Obviously, it's very different. Herbie's a trained guide. I'm a trained guide. Craig, of course, has been in the bush now for a fair amount of time and has learnt from us. So we'll, of course, instruct him, but we don't have guests with us, so we know what to do straight away. Now, I don't think I've ever been lost on a bushwalk before, Gabriel. I can't say that I ever have. The only time that you typically get lost when you're on a safari, when your guide can get lost, is if they're new to the area and it's dark. Because then everything changes. Now imagine on an overcast night, you can't see the stars, you can't see anything, and it's completely sort of pitch black. Then that's when you typically get lost, and that's when I've been lost a few times. And then you drive around until you find somewhere that's familiar. And the best advice I can give to any up-and-coming guides is when you start working on a new property, or perhaps it's your first job in the bush, make sure you get to a familiar spot, or have sundowners at a familiar spot, because typically sundowners end up going into sort of this crepuscular period that we're in now, this sort of last light, and sometimes even a little bit further if you're having a great time. And then at least you know if you're at that point, it's very, very easy to find home. But don't go exploring in the middle of the night, because I promise you, you're going to get lost quite easy. Right, our chariot is here. It's time for us to get in the big green van, and off we go. I'm going to send you across to Steve and Tristan for the rest of the afternoon safari.
Thank you, Taylor. Taylor's 100% correct when she says bushwalk is not necessarily about the big game. It's about surrounding and immersing yourselves in the smells, the sounds, and the little things. And taking one out of their comfort zone is probably one of the biggest things a bushwalk can do for someone. Even if you don't see animals, the tracks, the thought, the anticipation of seeing something dangerous really makes you stop thinking about all of the things that occupy most people's minds on a 99% of the time. Your brain goes quiet and you think about yourself in the moment. It's a very meditative practice, a very spiritual practice, and I've quite often in the past taken guests on silent walks where for 3 hours we don't speak. Now that is very, very powerful. Obviously we still point things out, and I'll point to go listen or show them something or give them something to smell or feel, but no vocabulary at all. That is when you get really deep into it, and I have changed some people's lives doing that. Even an hour doing that in the bush will change your life. I can guarantee it, because we feel we need to label everything we see. Everything that comes up in our mind, we have to label. We see it, we label. And as soon as you take away the need to label something, we don't think about it in the same way anymore. We start imagining ourselves as part of the system. And that for me is a very powerful practice, which I highly recommend doing. I don't know how well it would work if I took you all on a 3-hour silent game drive. I don't think Bex, or game walk, I don't think Bex and FC would be too happy if I said nothing when you came to me on the segments. We could try it though. We have tried it. Bex would think we've lost audio and be quite sad. She'd think we're giving her the silent treatment. Sorry, Bex, we'd never give you the silent treatment. We love you dearly. Steve's Silent Safaris, eh? It's got a ring to it. Does indeed. Okay, so we are right up on our northeastern boundary. Who knows what we might find, but while we do that, let's go to Tristan, who has left his girlfriend.
Oh, very funny, very funny. Ah, there's a hyena. Let's go that way. So there's a hyena across from us that's going down towards this impala carcass on the dam cam. So let's try just get down to the impala carcass itself. Now, we have left Sunny. Like I say, we tried to get the other guys in, but she got up as they were pulling in and went into a sort of different area that I doubt anyone's going to be able to follow her. It's really not pleasant in there at all, and so I'm pretty sure it's a situation where they're going to struggle to keep up with Thandi, which is unfortunate. I was trying to get out as quick as possible so that guy had a chance, given he was so patient with us. We were there for quite some time, so I felt bad, but it's the way sometimes it goes in the bushes. You have a situation where there's kind of, following an animal through thickets is not very easy. Now, where's our hyena? Right here. There we go. Hello, you. Are you coming straight towards us? I'm surprised this hyena's not gone towards where the impala carcass is, because the impala carcass is just on the other side here. It's sniffing around. Rebecca, do we know if this hyena's been eating on the bones yet? Maybe it's already fed and that's why it's kind of moving off. It seems as though it's got a fairly full tummy. No, nose to the air. Maybe it's going to try and find this in carcass. But definitely sniffing about, isn't it? It's got its nose to the air, kind of working things out. It's eventually, if it hasn't been to this impala carcass, it's going to find it. Hyenas are very good at this. Look, there we go. Now, I think let's go and position ourselves at the carcass itself and see what goes on. No, it's moving away, funnily enough, from the carcass. It's sniffing about all over the place. I wonder what it's sniffing for. So, let me just let the other guys know. Station Gari Dam, there's one hyena. It looks like it's going with this impala carcass. Let's see, there we go. Still nose to the ground, still sniffing. Wonder if it's maybe going to head towards where Tundi is. It's kind of just up in front of us now. Sorry, VM, I forgot you're on IR already. So there is IR that is kind of on and doing its thing. Now it seems as though this hyena is already kind of smelt, or is still trying to smell what's going on. So I'm unsure as to where it's going or what it's doing. What you doing? You're running about all over the place. Back down we go. So I think it's trying to find this carcass. It hasn't quite picked up exactly where it is, but it's trying to find it somewhere in this general vicinity. So it's going to be funny to kind of watch this and to see what's going on and whether or not they're actually going to be able to pick it up eventually and eat it, because there's still something for hyenas there. Even though nothing for a leopard and nothing for vultures, still something for these guys to be able to eat. But this particular hyena doesn't look as though it's got its thinking cap on, or like I say, it's already finished what's going on here. There's an impala watching the hyena. It's just a hyena impala, don't worry. You're okay. Let's see now. I just want to try and get round. Hyena is still walking away. I was hoping I was going to go to that carcass, but it seems not. Maybe it's filled up on elephant already today. No, there it goes. It's just running away from us at the moment, so let's just turn off here. At least we have a nice clear view, but I love watching them when they've got their noses down to the ground like this and they're kind of walking along, sniffing and trying to work out exactly what's going on. Off it goes down into the thickets. So I think that we're going to probably leave this hyena to itself, give it that it's going the complete opposite way to where we are at the moment. Good, that was a nice little surprise. I didn't expect to see that as we were kind of coasting along on our little evening bumble. Hello, impala. Gemma, because we know the trees and bushes and what species they are. So as soon as you know what species they are, you know which ones you can drive over. And that's pretty easy, given that they all have different shaped leaves, different type of bark, different type of sort of appearance. And so that makes life very easy from that regard and that point of view and standpoint. So at this stage, that's how we kind of do it, is you see in front, okay, those are bush willows. Bush willows are soft, pliable. At that size, we can drive over them. Then you'll see something like that in front of us, which is a wattle, which is far too big and thick, and you're not going to drive over that. Or this in front of us, this big stand of trees, which is tamburtis. We know those are protected species of trees, and so therefore we're not going to drive over those either, and we'll avoid them. So it's what the appearance of the tree looks like, and knowing what trees are what, that help you to be able to not drive over them and to be careful about what you're doing. So we try and avoid all the sort of endangered species, protected species, say, and so that birds, tamburtis, jackalbear. What else we got in this area? That's Cape ashes. What am I forgetting? Bolusanthus. So we yeah, Bolusanthus would be another one. I'm just trying to think. Knobthorns. There are lots of different species of trees that we get out here that we shouldn't drive over. Right, now while I kind of figure out what I'm going to do, I need to find my spotlight. I need to work out, oh, there's our hyena friend again. I need to work out what I'm going to be doing. Let's send you across to Steve, who's got his spotlight out, looking around himself.
I do, and we just had a small nightjar in the road. We tried to capture him on the camera, but sadly he flew off or should I say she, flew off just before we came over. That's okay, we might find another one. Paula would like to see a chameleon. I'm going to do my best to find you a chameleon. We are just arriving at Buffelshoek Dam as we speak. The hippos are still in the water. We're not going to shine the light at the hippo, but we will switch off for a moment here just to have a little listen, and I'll have a little scan around to see if anything is deciding to come down and drink. Still the 3 resident hippos at the moment. We are in IR, folks, infrared. Very eerie evening at the dam. The rain clouds have all but disappeared, and I think we might have a nice warm day tomorrow. It's been a rainy few days. You can hear the blacksmith lapwing. There's 2 of our resident hippo. Wonder what time they are going to venture out for their nightly feeding. Gizmo, it is very pretty. It is always nice to spend time near water and to just switch off. It's a very powerful thing. Even just a few moments of silence can be very, very powerful. For most of you out there who live in cities will know that it's incessant noise, and you get used to it. You get used to it. But out here, there's no sound, there's no engines or generators or car noises when you switch off. It's just the sounds of the bush, the birds, the bats. Sometimes just a gentle stroking of the wind through the long grass. So very, very quiet. We're going to move off shortly, but let's go over to Tristan, who's probably got his spotlights on now, and he's bumbling.
I do have my spotlights on, and I also have a birdie in the road. So we have a nightjar. Hello, little nightjar. Now I wonder what this nightjar is busy doing. So BM's going to go into color because we are kind of sitting right in the road, and I've got my headlights on, and that's why it's there. It's sitting waiting for little insects to come where it can then explode up out of the road and grab on whatever it needs. Now you can see that they're nocturnal birds. Look at the size of the eye in comparison to the rest of the head. Massive, massive, huge eye with a short little beak and those amazing kind of whiskers that they have that come out of that area to help them with being able to detect animals that are in flight, or moths and insects, and that they can then grab them as their eyes close when they open their beak. Because remember, as they kind of open their beak to grab an insect, their eye nictitating membrane is going to come down to protect the eye, to make sure that they don't get hurt. And there we go, off they go. And then they do this little flight off the road, catch something, and then back they go again. Now, I figured out that Rusty, for some reason, does not like to have its lights on and then be restarted. So Rusty doesn't want to start. Nope. So we'll have to just give it a break for a little bit. Rusty sometimes does this where it just doesn't want to start, and I wonder if it's maybe something to do with our relays again, but let's... Nope. Okay, now, sorry, Rebecca, Steve's talking so much on the radio. Steve's a very big chatterbox, and you were asking something about how much do birds eat a day. Is that what you said, Rebecca? How long do birds sleep for? It depends on which bird we're talking about. So a nocturnal bird is going to sleep all day, and a diurnal bird is going to sleep all night. So generally they sleep from when the sun sets till the sun rises, or wake up as the sun sets and then go to sleep as the sun rises. So they sleep for quite a long period of time. Obviously they're going to wake up if things disturb them. So if you drive along and you find something like a dove sitting in a tree, and you shine your light and you drive right at the tree, it'll wake up and fly to the next tree. But for the most part, they're going to try and avoid kind of flying around at night, and they're going to try and sleep all the way through the night itself unless something disturbs them. So that's kind of the usual thing. Now, come on, Rusty. Really? Right. There we go. That's because Rebecca was making fun of me and being nasty. So Rusty just showed Rebecca very quickly there how it actually works. Anyway, we've got Rusty back up and running, so let's send you back across to Steve.
So Rusty, I believe, needs a little bit of a delicate touch. I used him yesterday with no problems at all. I think it was in the morning, though, so I think it might have something to do, Trist, with the spotlights and whatever it is else you might be working on the alternator. But I am no mechanical expert, but I would assume that. We have a little party of hares here. Wow, 4 of them. Oh, marvelous. To mind my head, let's have a look at them in the IR and see if we can get them doing their thing. A little hare party. There was at least 4, just to a 5th one off to the left. It's marvelous to be able to see these things with infrared. Just switch up, see? Ooh, I wonder what's going on. There we go. Let's have a listen to the pearl-spotted owlet. Oh wow, looks like they want to box. I've never seen more than 2 hares before. The pearl spotted has stopped calling, but he might call again in a moment, as these hares are busy grazing. Ooh, there's all sorts of antics going on here. And quite relaxed because the lights are off, so it's good to be able to see their normal behavior. I've never in my life spent any time with hares. Normally we see them with the light and they just freeze. Oh, they're behaving in a very hare-like manner, it seems. Zero, it could be indeed be mating season. I have honestly no idea. They've come together in a little party here. Maybe it's I don't know. I really don't know. They might be competing for some mates. To be honest with you, this is the first time I've ever experienced this. We normally see 1 or 2 hares at a time with a spotlight, and they stand very still. I've never seen, I think I've counted 6 already now. Busy grazing and grooming, scratching the back of the ear. One thing is for sure, I've never seen so many scrub hares and scrub hare tracks in my life as I've seen in Djuma. And I am sure this is one of the reasons we have so many leopards, because there's so many scrub hares. They form a nice little aperitif for an hors d'oeuvre for the leopards. And what we do know, the scrub hares have got a very poor digestive system. They don't have a very good set of teeth when it comes to breaking down the food material. So they just munch in a little bit and then goes into their stomach when they cecum. They've got a sort of a hindgut fermenter type of digestive system. And then before they go to sleep, they'll generally defecate outside of their burrow or their warren, wherever it is that they're sleeping. And when they wake up in the morning, they will eat that dung, re-digesting it for a second time. It comes out much more digested than the first time. This is marvelous, Ferg. Have you ever spent time with hares before like this?
Not like this.
So similar to the digestive system of a zebra, they feed on quite a lot of food. And the fermentation happens in the enlarged cecum in the back. Welcome to the show, Monique. I'm loving that you're loving this sighting. There's lots of ears and lots of hairs. And it's marvelous to just be able to spend some time with them. Look, he's eating a leaf. I didn't know they ate leaves. Indeed they do. He's eating more leaves. I'm going to try and find out once he's finished eating what leaves they are. They're quite long and lanceolate in shape. It almost appears to be either a jackalberry or a guarri. Really is a hungry chap though. They've just come out at night time. I wonder if that was a leaf or if that was just a grass leaf that it ate, because I didn't know hares ate leaves off of trees, and I'm thinking it might just be the IR light that is making it look like it was a tree leaf.
Fleshy grass.
Was it a fleshy grass leaf? Okay, good.
So,
That's what Fergus is saying. Fleshy grass leaf. He's eating the inflorescence of the grasses though. It's marvelous. We have a bit of a bunny roadblock at the moment. Okay, well, since we found the first night critter, let's go over to Tristan and see if he's had any luck.
Well, we've had a nightjar, Steve, which is a night critter, so I feel like we've had some luck, and we had a bush baby that unfortunately jumped out of the tree and down into a drainage line, so we couldn't show you guys that, but we did have one of those. Now, I was actually just discussing with Wiem this female leopard with the 2 cubs that's being seen in Buffelshoek fairly regularly at the moment, is what I would say. I mean, it's not every day, but she's been spotted a few times recently. And I was asking Wiem if he was with me the one day when there was a sighting of the Nkuhuma pride very close to the Buffelshoek boundary, and while we were sitting with them, and I'm sure some of you might remember this sighting, we were sitting with them and all of a sudden the impalas started to alarm call north of the boundary, and the Nkuhumas went running northwards and into kind of Buffelshoek. And then we had a leopard cross behind us, and a very kind of shy leopard behind us, and then run south into a thicket. And so I wonder if maybe that female leopard is the same one that's being seen with the cubs at the moment, because I believe her tracks are all around the Buffelshoek boundary, just north of the Buffelshoek signboard, which is very close to where we actually saw that leopard. So I wonder if that's why she was here. She maybe was trying to mate with some of the boys at that time, and she was kind of coming into Djuma, because I also remember very clearly seeing lots and lots of female leopard tracks in this general vicinity and never really finding a female. And we always used to say, no, it's Shringila, she's kind of moving around in these thickets. And I wonder if it's not that young female, or that female, I don't even know if she's young, that skittish female that was running around in this area and just kind of trying to mate for that period. And then we had a brief visual of her crossing that road and going over. I don't think we even got her on camera that day. She kind of crossed behind me and we just had maybe a glimpse of a tail or something like that. I can't even remember if we actually did get it on camera or not. Ah, there's a butterfly. Let's go back quickly. Hopefully it's going to stay still. Oh no, it flew. Wiem, can you see it there where my spotlight is? I don't know if the pole's in the way. Okay, I'm going to keep my spotlight on so that Wiem, there in the middle of the spotlight, Wiem, you have pretty much got it. So I can't see what kind of butterfly it is. It looks like maybe one of the bushveld browns or something like that. Difficult to say with the light. The light is pretty much making everything around it orange and making it orange itself. But this little butterfly that's just sitting on the grass stems, just going to rest for the night. Now, I don't want to blind it with the light, but we thought we'd just show you quickly because we're not seeing many butterflies. Maybe it's an evening brown. Is there a butterfly called an evening brown? It seems to ring a bell for me. Now, here we go. Rusty's going to start its nonsense. All lights off. I feel like this is Steve's fault. Steve said he drove this car and that he had the touch, but I think it's all Steve's fault. Now, Monique, in terms of nocturnal butterflies, I'm trying to think of any that I know of. Maybe, like I say, the evening browns might be out around dusk, but I don't think there's any fully nocturnal butterflies, not like diurnal moths. I'm just trying to rack my brains and think about it. I don't think so, actually, to be honest. I might be wrong. Maybe Steve knows, and we'll have to ask him. Now, come on, Rusty. Here we go. My goodness. Rusty's not being good. So I think the battery on Rusty is probably not doing very, very well. So we have to be nice to Rusty and hope that Steve hasn't broken her. While we do that, let's send you back across to Steve and see if he's keeping Wendy alive.
What have I broken, Tristan? You're the one driving Rusty, not me. And if anything, Brent is the one who's been driving Rusty for the last however many weeks. So do not look over at Steve, who's driven Rusty once in the last month. Only once, and that was yesterday. And she was fine yesterday morning. Pradeep, I didn't mean to call the rabbit, or the scrub hair rabbit. It's just kind of a slip of the tongue. Most people will get them confused. They are quite different. We don't get any rabbits here in the park itself. They are slightly different in the way that they breed and the way they behave. But I apologize for confusing you there. Thank you for calling me on my mistake. But a lot of people like to call them bunnies. Bunny huggers as well. I think it all falls into the same sort of category, a rabbit or a hare. But they breed differently, Pradeep. And rabbits are known to be born with their eyes closed and naked in a burrow in the ground, whereas hares are born with hair on their body, as the name kind of implies, and their eyes are open, and they're born under just a bush, so just like something like that or like this, not very well secured from predators, and they're able to follow mum around from quite an early age, almost immediately, and suckle, which gives her a lot less sort of stress when it comes to feeding and bringing food down or coming down into the burrow to actually suckle. It's actually able to move around with mum from an early age. So that's the major difference. I think there are some morphological differences between the legs and the ear legs. Pradeep, what do I mean naked? I mean they have no hair on them at all. They are born just with skin and no hair. So that's what I mean by naked. And they slowly grow hair as they get older, just like we humans do. Some babies are born completely hairless on the head. Others genetically have got more hair on the head. But they're born naked. Hares, on the other hand, are born with hair on them, and they're able to keep themselves warm, their own little pajamas from birth. And whereas the rabbits are in burrows in the ground, which keep them relatively warm anyway. So that is one of the differences. Hope that answers your question. Still no chameleons, Paula. I'm sorry. They're very camouflaged today. Well, they're always very camouflaged. Lisa, you have just said something to me which sounds quite ghastly. I did not know that rabbits usually eat their first litters. I've never heard of that before, and I don't think hares do it. If they do, it's not some information I've ever come across. So, very interesting. Why a rabbit would eat its first litter is beyond me. But if that is true, well, I would love to understand why. Doesn't make too much sense to go through the whole gestation period and the fetus and all of the birth that comes about it to just eat it. Because as far as I know, sorry about that, rabbits are not carnivores. They are vegetarians, and very interesting if that is the case. Very interesting. No worries. Looks like he's staying with me because Tristan has broken Rusty once again. He needs to be delicate. He needs to be gentle and talk kindly to her. Let us know, Bex, if we need to go give him a hand, because we'll give him a round of applause. Of course, Wildebeest. The Wildebeest is with Tristan, VM, the cameraman. We call him the Wildebeest. He is incredible when it comes to fixing things and making things and inventing things. And he seems to have fixed Rusty. Of course, leave it to Wildy. He will sort it out. So we're going to make one quick turn at that impala carcass. We need to go over the dam wall here at Djuma, Vuyatela Dam. We're approaching it now, and maybe that lonesome hyena, Tristan was with earlier, has managed to finally figure out from which direction the smell of the carcass is coming from. Shamsung, very good question. Salt licks and animals. There are a number of reserves out there that will put out all different types of licks depending on the nutrient deficiencies that are in the area. You specifically say salt. It all really depends on the area. Soil samples are done in areas, and you can actually figure out the deficiencies that are missing. So, for example, copper, potassium, phosphorus, salt is one of them. I don't know if anyone in the Sabi Sands does it, but anyone who's got small game farms, they definitely do it to provide animals with extra nutrients in times of low sort of nutrients in the environment. But in the Kruger National Park and things like that, they don't do it. They want animals to basically naturally go about whatever it is they need to go about, to struggle if they need to struggle. Okay, well, that is the impala carcass there. That is completely, if you haven't seen it before, is completely finished. That impala is definitely officially dead. This morning he was still a little bit warm. There it is. And on that note, to a car that has started, let's go over to Tristan. From myself and Ferg, it's a good night.
Well, our car has started, but no thanks to Rusty being a helpful hand in this whole thing. VM and I had to push start it down the road, so we did a good job, I think, because given that there's only two of us, to push start a car is not the easiest thing. So well done, Wildy. And Wildy jumped in and managed to get it while I was just kind of the weight behind the whole vehicle this evening. So we managed to at least get it running and get it going, which is fabulous news, and at least we can get ourselves back. I think it's just a little battery problem that we should be able to sort out fairly easily, I think. We'll see. Seems like it. The fact that we push started it generally means a sort of battery issue. Right, now remember that we are in a situation where we might win an award, and if you want to see James Hendry give a speech and sing and all these other things that he promised last night, go and vote for us on the Webby Awards. You will find all the details on the Safari Live Facebook page. We're in 3 different categories. We apparently are doing well in 2, but not so well in the 3rd. So all of you to go and if we can make it a clean sweep. Wouldn't that be nice if we got all 3? That would be wonderful. So go and vote if you like what you see. Anyway, it's that time of the evening where we need to head back home. We're going to go and put Rusty in the medical bay, and well, maybe Steve too, given that Steve has been full of beans as well this evening and full of chirps. We might have to kind of get his head checked. But anyway, from Steve, Taylor, myself, all the cam-ups, Rebecca in final control, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning on the Sunrise Safari.
I started my career as a scuba diving instructor, and I was lucky enough to travel all around the world diving in the most spectacular locations. And now we're going back to my roots. Our new mission is to take you live underwater scuba diving. What we're going to do is we're going to have a marine biologist underwater with a full face mask so that they can answer your questions and talk to you in real time.
Lynn on Twitter, it's awesome to have you with us. It is incredible for me as well.
You'll be able to sit in your living room at home and ask a question about the underwater world to somebody who's under the ocean on the other side of the planet.
To be able to be live from underwater is magical. On the one Moorish island, you'll see a small cleaner rat that is actually cleaning little parasites off of that Moorish island.
We are developing a system that will allow us to talk underwater, for you to be able to hear us clearly. It's a real challenge. It's never been done before properly. We're coming along really well.
Leopard moray eel, look at that.
The next thing to do is to get a team out, to get a boat, to set up camp, and to start getting it all up and running. The incredible diversity of fish and coral will blow your mind. Dive Live is the way we're going to get everybody in the world the opportunity to connect with nature. This is our mission.
There's a quote from Jane Goodall, and that is, only if we understand will we care. Only if we care will we help. And only if we help will all be saved.
We are a community from all over the world that get together a couple of times a day to share our passion and love of nature.
Can you believe that?
We broadcast Safari Live into schools around the world, which enables the future custodians of our planet, the students, to fall in love with nature.
That whole Safari Live video just inspired me to fulfill my dream of becoming a safari guide as well.
If you pledge to this Dive Live project and come on this mission with us, you'll be able to be there for the first month, which will be a private access experience where you can help us develop Dive Live into being what we believe it can be. But then also, you'll be able to join us virtually on our premiere party after our first public broadcast.
So join us in testing the technology, finding the experts, and setting up camp.
This is such a great opportunity for us to make a difference. We can get people all around the world to fall in love with our oceans. And that's such an important thing to do. Come along with us. It's our mission, make it yours. We can make a real difference.